So we're pretty excited about that. I know when we started this endeavor, my process was kind of like, hey, let's get a dozen of them in and kind of see where it goes. And we've been really enjoying it. We've been having a lot of fun. We get a lot of really beautiful support in the comment sections on YouTube and on Spotify and such. And what I keep saying to people is like, this is a labor of love. Like, we love doing it. It's the most fun we have on a Friday all month.
Yeah,
we get to sit down with a friend. So episode 10, The Aging Arborist, this is a person that is a friend of mine. We've known each other. We were talking outside as we always do for a good hour. It's been at least 30 years, I think. You know,
oh, we're close. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're approaching 30 or over.
Yep. And so I'm going to just give you a quick story. I think that'll just give you a little insight into the man sitting across me, and then Brick's going to weigh in. But one of the big themes of the podcast is that we are, and I just like to reiterate this, is we're trying to capture the conversations that we have in the hallways, you know, underneath the trees at the competitions where we gather and we talk, you know, and we're trying to capture that basically. We've been talking out there for an hour, and we're basically just moved it in here to sit down. And the idea is to get y'all to benefit from that and understand that relationships are important, because this man across me is one of my best friends, and I met him through NJAISA 30 some years ago. I watched his kids grow up. His son Cody runs the tree side of the business right now, and then I started having kids, and he's worked with my son, and it's just been a beautiful journey. But a little insight into a story. I just told a story about where Rick had my back in a little confrontation we had outside, which is a great story. Maybe I'll tell a little bit later, but maybe you remember this one, maybe you don't. This is all the way back when Desiree, it's my sister-in-law, was a youngin', and she was doing admin for me, like getting phone calls and things and this and that. And I had the flu. I don't know if you remember this or not.
Oh, absolutely.
So I had the flu. I was down and out. And I had a humdinger of a flu. Like I mean, this is back in my 30s probably. And I'm kind of like laying in bed, sort of convalescing, and I hear these low, idling, rumbling trucks, and I manage to get to my feet, and I look out the window, and it's him and his whole crew.
And Dave Parker.
Yeah.
And two of his guys.
Yeah. And I'm like, and I don't remember what the scenario was, but you clandestinely kind of, which is Rick, kind of goes behind my back for good intents and sets it up with Desiree, right?
You had been out of work for 4 days.
Yeah.
And you had customers that really needed to be.
Yeah. There was, I think there was a job that was, and these guys just came up and were like, I was like, what are you doing here? He's like, we're going to work. And I'm like, I was so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That someone was coming to, but like, he put this together to come up and basically salvage a job for me, unsolicited. I never asked for it. He just got it in his head and in his heart. It's funny because Rick's not the guy that likes, like, you know, you flatter him and he gets uncomfortable. But when you talk about the nature of a person and how they are, and this is what I say about Rick, there are probably 30 or 40 people in our circle that when they are around Rick feel like they are his best friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just the vibe and the personality that he brings. So in some ways I'm like, it's long overdue that he's on, but timing is perfect. So
it was funny. I wanted that kind of that story to be told about you feeling down and out and being able to rely on other people to do something. And I remember him trying to put his boots on and came to work, but he couldn't do a darn thing. But he came with us because he felt like he had to, and he didn't have to. It's just, it was one of those things. You see a friend in need and you try and fill that need if you can. And that's kind of what Dave and I decided we would do. So, and I think we did 3 jobs that day. One was the one that had to be that. And that when we went home, it was just, it felt good to be able to help, you know, especially when you know you're a tree guy and you know that you have to be out there every day grinding. And when you don't do it, it's like 4 days. I'm missing so much work. This is ridiculous. I can't do this. And you're inside and you're beating yourself to death. And we've already had that discussion just half an hour ago about 2 weeks of not being in work.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then for me, that was terrible.
First of all, I agree with you on that point. But you know me, I hear it. First of all, I love the brotherly relationship that you guys have, just seeing the natural chemistry. I'm happy to be a part of it, and like a new budding version of it.
Yeah.
But first and foremost, yes, like being able to be there to support a friend. I mean, for the listeners that are listening, always be that person. That because in the end, Paul and I talk a lot, but I always say that like in the end, near death, what are you really gonna remember, or what are you gonna talk about? And you're gonna talk about the stories of how you made people feel, not
Right.
what you. I mean, maybe you'll talk about stuff you accomplished, but it's not gonna make you feel good. So like just hearing that, like the kickoff to the whole thing, is a testament to what I know of Rick Yoos in the at least in the chapter that we have. And I know this is what you feel, but legend, like your name is associated with legend. And I know you don't want to, but you have to take it. That's just how it is. But the point is, like, there's a legend status to it, and the legend status isn't because the biggest tree, the biggest equipment, and it's literally because of you, the person who's behind the scenes, making all these connections and making things smooth, as we talked about before, but making things smooth, work well, good chemistry, and it's a no-brainer that everybody enjoys that energy. So from me to you, I appreciate that a ton, and that we can go into all the credentials and how long, and we will, but just starting off with that story and then how we know each other, the best.
It's funny how how there's true not enthusiasm, true appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, somebody has like true appreciation. You can do something for someone and, oh yeah, I appreciate that. But true appreciation, and here I am breaking my arm, to touch my own back. But yesterday I was driving to work, chainsaw laying in the street. Chainsaw fell out of somebody's truck and it's laying in the middle of the street. So I pull over and I look at it and I'm like, hoo-hoo, good for me, great find, I get to keep this saw. I'm looking at it and there's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. This saw is only 2 or 3 years old. I'm like, 2 hours into the thing, I'm thinking like, this is wrong. Somebody's having a really bad day because they lost a $500 or $600 chainsaw. So there's a tag on the chainsaw, and it's the company it's the steel dealer that sold it. So I called them up and I said, listen, do you keep serial numbers? And they said, oh, we can get anybody's serial number for a chainsaw.
Yeah.
I said, hey, listen, can you do this for me? And they did. And they gave me a name. You have a phone number? And he goes, yeah, I have a phone number. The right thing to do is to call this person and say, you're having a really bad day. Oh, by the way, I have your chainsaw. And he wouldn't pick the phone up. And it went 10 rings and then it went to voicemail. And do you know that my phone rang in 32 seconds? Like, you have my chainsaw? Found it. He goes, yeah. It was, like, I said, I have it with me. I'm up here above Trenton. I'm going to be working for a little bit around 3 o'clock. Who does this? I said, you're having a really bad day, right? $500, whether the employee dropped it or you didn't put it in the box right, you're in a bad day. You can see true appreciation in someone's in their face.
Sure.
I dropped that saw off to that guy and you didn't. I mean, literally, the guy almost wanted to cry because it was like, we all work so hard. Why should I take advantage of someone that works so hard? So I dropped that chainsaw off to the guy and he was like, but you can sell true appreciation. It wasn't like, hey, thanks a lot. And he was gone.
Right.
This guy was like, he was gushing that he lost something and that someone found it and they were willing to at least give it back. And I'm sorry, please, I hope it doesn't come across that way, but it felt good.
Yeah.
It just felt really good to be able to give that back and say, listen, today I was a Boy Scout. I did what I had to do to make someone else's day a much better day.
So I have a quick question. This is my point.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to say, but I'm pretty sure you remember what you did that day, but what you accomplished money-wise on that same day, what felt better? The job you got done or doing that chainsaw, giving it back?
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter monetarily what you made. It's the fact that somebody else feels good.
Yep.
And it really, I got a text 20 minutes later and he said, thank you very much. God bless you. And I'm like, this guy really, he understands. And it was just, that was a high all the way home. Just driving home, that was a high.
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, you could go and work for people and they do appreciate it. But, and they paid you. Sometimes it just pales in comparison to what you actually
Yeah.
Actually got to. And it was a good thing. But
That's
it was
cool.
just, it happened yesterday and I just couldn't believe it. It was just wonderful.
There's a couple things that it's odd for me. First of all, what are the chances that another tree guy finds the saw first?
Right.
Yeah.
There's people where was it a busy road?
Yes. It was a back road, a little 2-lane back road, but it was busy because people use it to cut between 206 and Route 130.
Yeah. So not only a tree guy, but like only in my opinion, like if it was a homeowner, that's going in the trunk and it's like, and they'll either put it in the garage or it'll go up on Facebook Marketplace or something.
Right.
But another tree guy knows how to do the serial number thing.
Right.
So like Serendipity had it where it was like, boom, you found it. And what I love about that is, and this is a part you may or may not understand, and sometimes those events, and I'm gonna pull the veil back a little bit and tell a story too. But you don't know, you help that guy have a good day. You may have also sort of inadvertently changed his perspective. I don't know this person. You didn't drop a name. I'm not going to ask you to, but we don't know the condition of this guy's character. I mean, it sounds by the sound of it that he's a good guy.
Yep.
And that he had appreciation. But let's say maybe this individual wasn't. Maybe this is the type of guy who might keep a wallet or keep a chainsaw, and all of a sudden he's like, it makes him reconsider his own line of thinking. I remember, and I always struggle with this, and you and I've talked about this, where we have a guest on and we want it to be focused on the guest, but oftentimes these conversations stimulate other stories, other thoughts. So our one friend Bansky, Ryan Bansky, I'll just mention his name. He's got a tree service a little bit north of here. We're all friends with him. Great guy, runs a good company. So way back, he got robbed.
Oh.
I mean, this is,
yeah,
I don't know.
I remember.
Over 10 years ago.
Yep.
15 years ago, maybe, something like that. And I heard through a former employee of his that they got robbed. And I reached out and I was like, hey, I know you want to work tomorrow. I'm like, so like if there's any, like if I can put a little, while you're waiting for the insurance, if I can put a little complement of saws together, like if there's anything you're missing that I can just go here, use this for 3 days, a week, 2 weeks, whatever, till the insurance comes in and you can and he said up until that point, he had always thought of all other tree guys more or less like as competitors.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I couldn't imagine that somebody, now we do compete directly to a degree, but he's, my northern reach of my territory is like the southern edge of his territory. So there's a little overlap, but we're not like head to head.
Right.
He's not in the same town. So I just think it's important that we never know what those acts, how they're going to affect and impact. They're going to send ripples out, potentially give somebody a different perspective.
But speaking to that, it rekindles your hope that there is humanity. And that's where this whole thing going back since 86 for me was like in the first 2 or 3 years, nobody talked to anybody. And everybody was the flipping the bird finger, we don't know you, we don't like you, we don't care about you, we don't blah, blah, blah. Getting into this association and being an arborist that's been in this association for a long time, the tree brotherhood, you find that there are more great tree guys than there are the guys that want to flip you off and want to just don't want to have anything to do with you. So it's been a phenomenal ride for 40 years. It really has been for these people. We were talking about the competition. I'm sure you guys are going to touch on a lot, but you learn so much and there's so much camaraderie in that because everybody understands the struggles that the other people are going through. They know the climbing. They know this. How many people have gotten their lives better because they went to the climbing competition and they learned 2 little things that made their life so much easier to do their job. It's a great community. It really is, Yeah. And that's where, it is. When you can get to the right people and the people that know what it's all about. That's why the 3 of us are here, because we all know the character of the person that's here. And it wouldn't be any other place.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So I guess what I'll do is I'm just going to pivot backwards for a half a second. So 40 some years in the tree industry?
38 years doing my own business.
Okay. Awesome.
40 years in the business.
Okay, cool. So I've heard the story before. It's been a while, but I like the story of like the origin story. So why trees? How trees? Like what's the story there? Like all the way back and what year would that have been? Because I'm not great at
Well,
math,
86 is when I started my business.
Okay, cool.
84 is when my vocation is welder machine shop. I'm a machinist by trade.
Oh, okay. All right.
I was working in a machine shop making killer money. At 18, I had a brand new pickup truck that I had invested. I bought the truck for $5,500 brand new from the factory. And I had already had in 1 year, I already had $3,500 in extras put in the truck. So I paid more on extras than I did to the loan that I owed on the truck. I owned that truck. I owned a 68 Corvette. I owned a 18-foot boat. I vacationed every weekend at the shore.
So pause. You were living then in PA?
I was living in Pennsylvania, correct.
Okay,
I originally came from Pennsylvania, started my business in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Had at that time, we're talking about 77, had $6,000-7,000 in the bank, single, all the toys you could ever want. Great. 5 years in the machine shop. I'm an outside person. I can't stand being inside. I was doing 12-hour days, sometimes 6 days a week in the machine shop. But the money was like killer, but I couldn't do it. There's the sanity, and then there's the insanity.
That's great.
Yeah. I mean, I just couldn't do it. So a friend of mine did a landscape company, and he went to Temple for tree work, to their horticultural department. Yeah.
Nice.
And so anyway, he was doing that, and I thought, so I decided I'm out. I'm out of I can't be inside any longer. So I worked with him for 2 years, thought I knew everything. So decided to start my own tree business. Well, didn't actually work that way. I was going to do the landscaping thing, but everybody's doing a landscaping thing, and tree service was something that I liked. And generally, all in all, if I was going to start the business here, but in the same radius of New Jersey that I would have followed in Pennsylvania, say a 40-mile radius from my home, there was 47 people in the phone book in Pennsylvania. Where I'm at right now, when I went down there in 85, there was 4 tree services in that area. So it was like, and my wife was from New Jersey and she wanted to go visit her family. So it was like, why don't we start a tree business in New Jersey? Really, it all worked out really well. So that's kind of the backstory of how it all started and worked up from there. But the thing is it's, we're just talking about this to someone else. The Pendel ISA show was the killer show. It was the elite show. When you went, you saw 30, 40, 50 of your friends, not to mention there was 400 attendees. It was like, it was a gathering. It was phenomenal. It was wonderful. It was the greatest place. And it's just, that's where I learned. I mean, I'm going back to the throw ball that used to look like a softball. And there was a ring in the top of it made out of rubber.
Yeah,
that was a throw ball. And now it's like, now it's like you watch these guys do 90 feet hand throw. And it's like, you're like astounded at a 90-foot throw. And it's like, back then we wished we could get 40 feet to set a line, but the learning curve and all that other stuff. That's how I started and kept moving from there. And there are jobs that I did that when you're bringing up money, I did a 3-day job for $800.
Wow.
Yeah. Messed that one up like terrible. And on top of that, shot a rock through a guy's window in his pickup truck and had to pay for his pickup truck window because I was grinding stumps. So it's a learning curve. But that's the very, 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 very beginning. It's like a stump grinder, a dump truck, and a chipper. That's all we had.
Yep.
We had that for, I don't know how many years, 7, 9.
That's awesome.
You had a chip brush in the morning, dump the truck, and you had to load wood in the afternoon. same truck. So so that's how I started.
That's
way
cool.
way back.
So is there like we those of us that form businesses, and I love what you said. You're like, I worked for 2 years and I thought I knew everything.
Yeah.
And it's funny because here, what I find is, we have those moments, and then we get 30 years in and we realize we don't know anything. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like, like as you mature and grow, and you're just like, man, as a science, and it's kind of what I think a lot of us love about this thing is, there's there's all the physical with tree work, angles, spatial relationships, fitting this into this space, logistics of where to put equipment, where's the chipper go, how do we set the crane up, all this interspatial things that we have to be aware of. But then there's the biology of trees. Should you choose to get into the living organism, as Brick likes to say. So I think that's what keeps us interested. But when you said that, I thought I knew everything, is there a lesson, like some watershed moment, some big lesson, just one or two things maybe, and I'm putting you on the spot, where in that first, say, like 5-year window, you went, man, I thought this, but now I see this. Like whether it's work or business, is there something that was like a big change for you, or like an aha moment, something you can share, anything like that? Or
Probably not an aha moment, but one of the things that got to me is that I saw other people do it and it looked easy. But when you actually have to do it yourself, and you have to know which piece of equipment, whether it's a chainsaw or a pull saw or a ladder, or what you have to do to get to do that job, at that point, then it's like, I really had to start thinking about it. And I can tell you right now, I'm not a good businessman. I can go work and I can do the strong part. I'm great at that, but I'm not good at the business part. So generally, all in all, if I need a piece of equipment, I went and bought it. Couldn't afford it. If I needed an extra chainsaw I would go and buy it. Well, we don't have the money for that. Well, okay, so you try and listen to your partner, and you don't. And it's not, to me, it was a bad thing because I was just thought I knew everything. But those were the things. That equipment was the beginning of knowing that the job can get done easier on the people and better all around if you have the right piece of equipment. At some point, the right chainsaw. When I started out, I had 2 chainsaws, and I had a pole saw and a ladder, and that was it. And I thought that was all I needed. And no, that was, so I guess the aha moment was making sure you have the right piece of equipment to do the job, and as tree guys are, and most tree guys are this way, some people don't know how to walk away from something that they can't do. The pride has to come back, and you have to say, nope, don't need that part, because it's really only going to get me in trouble. And that was a long, hard lesson in many years. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so those were, if there was, you had to have the 2 ahas, stop being prideful, and make sure you have the right equipment. That would be what I would put.
No, those are like life lessons.
Oh, perfect.
No.
Yeah. There's one thing I can say. Do you want to chime in on that?
No. So, because I think before you got here, I was talking to him, telling him that I'm really good when it comes to diving into things or being involved in things.
Yep.
But I'm terrible on the admin things. In personal life and professional.
Yep.
Terrible. And not because I don't care about it, but more of like, and Paul made a good point, because when you do admin stuff, you don't get to see the results of that.
Correct.
Where if you take a tree down, you saw the result. If you go to a gym and lift weights, you feel good. It's an instant result to like you're doing something, where admin stuff can be that just long, boring thing that you don't see the reward until later.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So, so I just wanted to ask, did you put more focus into the admin part of it, or did you try to get somebody else involved in that to help with the business?
So it's funny you say that, because when I look at us as tree guys, I think a lot of us are in this because we're problem solvers. And we feed off of, as you've said, we feed off of seeing the result in a timely fashion. And the fact of being, so we want to problem solve. We want to, like you said, you can dive into it and you can get into that, and you can, yes, that goes here and this goes here and that's good. But then when you get to the other side of it, it's like when I told some tree guy friends that I had somebody in my office working for me. Oh, well, that's just a waste of money. But it's not a waste of money.
No.
It's like, I fancy myself an okay mechanic. There's a point at which I have to stop saying I can't fix this. Someone else. You can go out and make more money doing the job you're doing and allow someone else to do that. Someone in an office, phone calls, stuff like that. That is some of the best money you will ever spend. And people say like, but that's just another payroll. And how can you afford to? How can you afford not to? How many years? And I know Paul can attest to this. And I'm not sure, Brick. Maybe but when you have to go out and do tree work all day long, and then when you come home and you see 12 blinking numbers on the answering machine, and people don't get nutty, it's an answering machine. Everybody has smartphones and all the other stuff. We used to have to come home to a little cassette tape, and we used to play back all, and we had to take down. But now you just did 7 hours tree work. Now you have to take down those phone calls, but now you have to leave the office, and you have to go do the estimates you set up the day before to come back. So the admin stuff, no, the first thing I would say is you can't afford not to have someone, because if it's not your forte, if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to do it. Right? And if you get into stuff and you like it, that's great. But if you don't like it and you hold back and you just say like, yeah, I'll get to it. Your life is going to be a problem because you're going to keep pushing that off and it'll never get done properly. So yeah, that was where I realized that I couldn't do it all myself. And it had to be someone else to do stuff for me that way, because it's not my interest. And that's the main thing for me. If I'm not interested in it, I'll just, doesn't exist. Yep, it doesn't exist, right?
Yeah. So it's Brick and I were talking earlier, and I said, I would tell anybody who listens that I agree 100% with what you're saying. And it's not even that I mind the phone calls, but it's exactly what you're saying. Couple things I hear there is, number one, that's an add-on job at the end of your day.
Correct.
And you're supposed to have a little bit of grace and be a little magnanimous when you make, hey, it's Paul from Tree Awareness, just calling you back. Meantime, I just did 7-8 hours of tree work. I'm exhausted. Yep. I'd like to eat some dinner. Well, now sometimes it's 7 o'clock. Am I calling people back 7-8 o'clock at night? Not even really technically business hours, right?
Right.
So I did what you did very early on. I hired my sister-in-law, Desiree, and I was very early in my business. And I see guys like, just say like a mechanic guy who's very good at his mechanic thing. He's got a truck. He's going out. He's doing his thing, and then he's got like bills to send out, and you keep that money flow coming in.
Yep.
But I have to sit and do bills. But I have these jobs to do, and now I'm pinched on cash flow because I got to sit and do bills. And if you just had that little bit of help. And it doesn't even have to be full-time. It could be part-time. The other side of that is your reputation. If I keep putting those phone calls off and I get known as that person who doesn't get back to people, then that's costing me reputation. Mm-hmm. Whereas I always looked at that as a point of separation. We are the company that gets back to people. We are the company that answers every single phone call.
Right.
Now you're building something completely different. Right. So
absolutely.
So that's a big deal. And you can be the greatest, you can have the biggest heart in the world, but if that admin side isn't functioning right, nobody knows what a great dude you are because you haven't called them back in 2 weeks,
Right. Your name gets tarnished.
Right.
Yeah. But that's how old you're saying you're getting me to think back to mid 80s, which is kind of like, oh my gosh,
doesn't seem that long.
I don't remember that, but it's like, think about the 80s. It's 40 years ago.
The music was great.
Yeah, right. And how everything changed. How everything has changed. It's like, I want to say to you about answering machines, because people don't know kind of what they are. They know what voicemail is, but they don't know what answer. So to relive all that, it's neat to see it, that because every day I don't think about it. I think about the technology that's in front of me. I think, oh, this is great. But, it's like yesterday, 4 jobs. We were done at 3:00. 4 jobs. The 4 jobs that I looked at were 4 days. That would have been 4 days worth of work, what we did yesterday. And it's that so you look at that technology and you just keep on going. But then as the aging arborist also, prices haven't changed. We're still down. We're doing 4 jobs in one day that we did in 4 days. We would have made more money if we would have just done it in 4 days instead of in one. But it's the same thing. It's we don't look back and we don't say to ourselves, look where we came from. And it's phenomenal where we're at this right now. But let's just look back and see what got us here. You know, it's a long journey. It's been a long journey for you know. I mean, people they say to me, they say, it's been a long journey. Yeah, it is. I don't realize that now that here I am at my age, I don't realize that at one time I was 28 years old, and that's when I started my tree business. You know, yeah. So it's like, hey, we were just looking at some pictures, and everybody's like, my daughter's going, but that's you. I said, no, that's not me. Well, there's no dad bod. There's no, there's no the loss. Well, loss of hair was always there because I lost it at 25. But the loss of hair, it's the wife even looks at the pictures of. I mean, I used to do a full week's worth of tree work, and on Saturday and Sunday, used to party hardy. Used to water ski all weekend long. Used to go to the beach. Used to be out in the sun, and you know how the sun can beat you down. Dude, I go outside, tie my shoes, and the sun beats me down, and I can't. I feel like I lost half of my day, and we used to be able to do that. It used to be. So as you age, you have to understand that technology has helped you and get you more done during a day. But does it really get you? Does it really get you more? Because you got family to take care of. Now you got friends to take care of, and and I'm sure Rick's gone over some of his trials in life and all. But you start to cherish more about your family and about your children and about after all those years. And hopefully the people on your podcast are going to learn that we're beating our bodies up. We're beating them up hard. Now we're not as much, but we have to go home and still play with our children too. And now I have grandchildren, so it's like, I'd like to play with them. But, sometimes that ache and that pain just, is tough. So as you do age, it hurts. So, some more of of the past that I forgot about.
Yeah. Well, one thing just popped into my head. Are you still having fun?
Are we still having fun?
Are you still like in terms of like the tree? You know what I mean? Like my thing is like, and for those of you that don't know, for the listeners, whatever, I'll just say like Rick and I are friends. This is a group of friends here. Rick, and I maybe this is a good point to jump into it, but I've always seen Rick as an early adopter. Okay. Like I remember walking trade show floors with you and there'd be a new piece of kit, new piece of gear. So Rick says he's a machinist, mechanic, by trade. But I will say this, and I'll just kind of add this little feather in his cap. He has an engineer's mind, right? So he's a guy that built his own log arches because he knows how to weld. He built his own lowering devices before they were really a thing, or he would look at something and go, yeah, these are the flaws. I'm going to design it this way and weld them up. I can remember walking trade show floors with you, and there was one guy, and I don't remember where or when it was, but he had some kind of newfangled lowering device, and it like swiveled, and it had these like a little bit like a jailbreak, but it was like self-contained, and it had these like cheek plates on it. I remember it like it was yesterday. And you started questioning the guy, have you that? And he's like, well, it's not designed for that. And you're like, it doesn't matter. We're tree guys. We will like if we need to tow a truck with this thing, that's kind of what we'll do. And I remember and this is kind of a cool story. My first view, you had a job. So Rick, just little orientation geographically, we're in New Jersey. Rick lives about an hour and 15, just about straight due east of me along the shore. Excuse me. And is from, 20 miles? 20 miles east or west?
Yeah, west of
20 miles west.
Yeah,
so his family is still there. You have sisters and...
Yep.
Right. So at one point, he's got a job. He wants to take care of something at a couple of his siblings' properties, in-laws, whatever. And... he says, hey, man, I don't want to bring everybody. Would you help? So, yeah, man, let's do a chance to work together. And he's like, hey, start here. We're going to start. I'm going to drop this holly tree. This tree needs to come down. So I start going up this maple tree. And I hear, and I'm getting my gear together. And I'm kind of I'm getting myself ready. But it's, working with friends day. So the holly tree comes down. All of a sudden, I see this winch cable get deployed from this 1800 Vermeer chipper, which I had a little like 1230, 12-inch little thing.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I see this whole tree getting pulled. And I'm thinking, they're going to be ready for brush from my tree here in a second. I better hustle. And this thing just, it starts like eating. And I'm like, oh my God, the production level that this machine. And what I'm saying is Rick, in my opinion, has always been someone that sees it, looks at it and goes, that's going to help. And goes out and institutes that in his business. So for those of you that don't know, and we might as well just jump in here. Yeah, Rick, climbed and has a career as a climber and built his business and worked, but was always adopting new kit, new gear, new machinery, and was a very early adopter in the knuckle booms. We just looked at pictures from the 80s. Were they or early 90s?
Early 90s.
Early 90s.
95, 94.
Where he had, a truck with a knuckle boom. Now, mind you, they weren't these 110-foot monsters that we have now, although he has two now. But point being, adopting these new technologies and new pieces of kit. So that's something I've seen. I don't know what makes you that way, or just were you always kind of just looking for efficiency? When you look at things like that, like even remember one time you went to the Vermeer booth in the middle of the TCIA Expo and they just came out with some grinder, and
352.
Yeah, you were like the first guy that bought that machine,
352,
right?
yeah,
right off the trade show floor.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about just kind of like what is it that drives you? Is it curiosity? Is it seeing to get things done more efficiently, or seeing equipment and finding a place for it in your business?
Are most tree guys, in your guys' opinions, are most tree guys like competitive?
Yeah.
A little competitive?
Yeah, for sure.
So, as a tree guy, I always wanted to have the first. I always wanted to be the first. And it could be a downfall, and it could be a great boon, In your aspect of asking about it, it was a great boon, but it was also a great downfall because there were a couple of pieces that I got before they did the research and development on those pieces of equipment, and I didn't lose money, but it wasn't the best thing in the world.
Okay.
So I'm going to go back up 1/2 of a second. You asked me a question, and the question is, or the answer is you ever hear that stupid saying, find out what you love and you won't work a day in your life?
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So how's it go? Beam me up, Scotty. I haven't worked a day in my life. I might work 10, 12, 14 hours sometimes in a day. I didn't work. I don't look at it as work. I look at it as I enjoyed myself that day. I was able to meet with a lot of friends, which yesterday was a meeting with friends, but we still got 4 jobs done. But meeting with friends, we had a good time. We joked about stuff. We spent 5 minutes talking. It was more a matter of, enjoying what you're doing. And some people will be like, but I don't have your enthusiasm. Well, some people do and some people don't, but no, I don't think in the tree business I've been angry. I've been upset. I've been in a lot of things in 40 years, but have I ever actually worked? No, because every day I go out, I enjoy what I do and I want to continue to do it. Do I want to continue doing it for the rest of my life? Absolutely. There's a joke in my family that, retirement is defined by my father lying on the garage floor dead with a wrench in his hand.
I've heard this before.
You have it?
That's considered retirement.
Nice.
Because I don't want to not do it. And we have a great friend, all 3 of us here, Bert Kuhn.
Yeah.
Bert just sold his business.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, you did know. Yeah.
Bert, his business is totally gone.
Wow.
He sold out completely. Him and his partner decided the children didn't want it, so the business is now sold. So,
okay.
And all the equipment's up for sale and all kinds of other parts and parcels that. But it was like, this is this guy Bert who we talk about, who's been competing up until he's 60-something years old, and last year before, whatever. But here's a man that I think also was possibly in that part. He enjoyed what he did, so he did it and did it with a passion. So with that, then going on to the equipment end of it, it was just like, I always thought to myself, I didn't always know the work smarter, not harder thing. I always worked harder and not smarter. And then seeing stuff, as Paul's mentioned about that, it's like, yeah, that could help out. This could help out. That could help out. Talking to other people, Glenn Riggs, Pete Thomas, these guys that were innovators in the business way back when. It's just, you see these guys and you don't want to, sometimes I'm a latch on, or I latch on and then I kind of like not ruin a friendship, but I kind of strain it a little bit because I'm just too much. I'm asking too much. I'm wanting too much. I want to know more information and all. And kind of you have to back away a little bit and say, but they were willing to, show me things that they learned and they did. But yeah, just trying to stay on top, with that, like I said, it more along the lines of not wanting to have to, how can I put this? Not wanting to beat myself up to get the job done, but to get the job done so that no one else has to beat themselves up. And that's why I kind of looked at the equipment and the material that we did. And it's a shame because I've now passed that on to another generation, my son, who has no problem pulling out the checkbook and writing a check, which, but he's gotten a little better at it. But yes, we have to make it. And he's learned from guys like you, how to climb better, learning some stuff from Rick, different equipment that Paul's bought. He's looked at this stuff and say, wait a minute, not that one, but this one. So it's again, you go back to the community of the trees, everybody's willing to teach, some aren't, 10% aren't, but 90% are. So it's another brotherhood that I'm happy to be in right now.
Awesome. No, it's interesting. See if I can remember how you just said that. So Brick and I, by the time this airs, Arbor Expo will be over. Currently not. It's next week, and we're giving a talk. And one of the key points we're talking about is like why are relationships important? And I mean, legitimately, we are all over it in every episode. But like you're speaking of every aspect of relationships. It's vital. It's lifeblood.
Yeah, sure.
And I know this is why you and I resonate, and we're kind of on that same frequency. And you're big on that, and you're big on connection, and that's what I think. I mean, I think Rick does it beautifully too. Like,
oh yeah,
Rick may be one of the few people who takes longer to leave a place than me or than you. Like, it's like, where's Rick? He's back there. He's coming. 10 minutes later, you see him, and then 5 minutes later, he's right here, and then but he's pressing the flesh, and he's having legit, honest dialogue with people. But those relationships, I think, and the cool thing is, he doesn't enter them. Rick has a servant's heart. Rick's got that. Like, hey, look, whatever it takes. Like, we'll get this done. Jump in, please.
Ever talking?
Yeah,
I'm hearing it.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, because I believe this. Everybody always asks how I'm able to do certain things as a deaf person, and when I try to mentor the deaf kids coming up, it's all about personality too. It's not just do this and then you'll get this. It's also like your personality has to be a part of the equation, right? So I'm curious. When he's talking about, you have the engineer's mindset and everything that you said is great. I'm curious if there's things that you learned from your mom or your dad, from your family, that kind of.
You're gonna love that.
So that's because this connection, who you have become. I'm always curious if there's a root somewhere.
So my father grew up in high school with 5 friends, and he stayed friends with those 5 friends till they all passed away.
Well, not passing away, but the connection.
No. Because it was a great ride. Because all 5 families all had 5 or 6 children. So when we had a party, it was a big party. My father's friends all swore up and down in front of our faces and not in front of our faces that I was adopted.
Yeah,
because my father couldn't tell the difference between a screwdriver and a hammer.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That's how it was. My mom, she was a little better. She liked to garden. She liked that. She was pretty good at it. But no, my dad, Nope. He was like 2 left feet. You know, he couldn't fix anything. And they always were angry with me because I'd take stuff apart because I wanted to see what it looked like and I wanted to see how it worked, but I didn't know how to put it back together again. So it's like, oh, we just lost our radio, or we just lost this, or because I would take things apart, but then I would start putting them back together again. Both my brother and I, my brother is a very good mechanic, and they started swearing after my brother started doing it. They started swearing he was adopted too, because, but I have a sister. You would have thought she was the youngest in the family. You would have thought this is a prima donna girl and blah, blah, this. This girl can fix computers. You just don't, and she's not 12 years my junior, but awesome. That's how my other sisters aren't that way, but she is, you know. So no, the family a lot didn't, because my grandfather and my grandmother, my grandfather was a very good businessman and he really great in that way, but he was not like a fix things or do things kind of guy. So no, it didn't carry through on the family. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was innate.
Just that curiosity.
The curiosity.
Yeah, the curiosity of what is, why is, what is. Like, I like art. I like remote controlled toys way back. You know, did that play into the fact that now my toys are just the fact that I can sit inside of them and drive them around? Maybe, but it's just, that's what I liked. You know, I liked a lot. And all my sisters say it. I mean, it's a good thing you like that stuff because now you're pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Which totally, that last part you said totally makes sense why you're so efficient with the knuckle booms. It's only destined and happened at some point.
He's been practicing a long time.
A long time.
A couple.
You know what I mean?
Things.
You're still that kid.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And that's, like I said, and I don't work. I mean, I don't work a day in my life because I am still a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I don't mind saying it. Do I know the day-to-day workings of my own company? No, I don't. Why? Because I don't want to. It's not a matter of wanting to be clueless. It's a matter of I want to go out and get the work done. Somebody else can take care of that, and they can come and yell and scream at me because I didn't sign this one paper. But I mean, and I infuriate my wife and my children because I don't. You know, I don't care. I want to go out and I want to work. I just want to go out and do something all day long, and leave me be. Let me get it done, you know. And but if I have to sit down, you know, if they grab me by the scruff of the neck or the ear and they brought me in the office and said, "We got to take care of all this stuff," it'll be another 3 weeks, and then we will do it again. I'm okay with it. I don't like it. I'll fight tooth and nail, but I will go do it, just because it does have to be done. But I can't be in charge of my own company because we lose money. And I say that with all seriousness. Some people have certain gifts. Some have certain qualities. They know how to do those things. I don't. I personally don't. I have someone, same we talked about, the secretary or admin, whatever. I have someone doing my estimates. They've been doing my estimates for my company. It's my company. Everybody says, "Oh, it's your company. You should be doing your own estimates and you should be this." And no. If the person's good at the job they're doing, they're good at the job they're doing, they should do that job. 14 years. Probably 14 years he's been doing estimates. He's been with us 27 years. And this guy started out he wanted to be a school teacher.
Shout out to Sean, by the way.
Shout out.
And I'm blessed to know Rick's people and Rick's company. I just want to jump in because I think it is so important for the listeners to understand, you know, despite what you may be thinking about what Rick's saying, the genius in it, the smart in it is he knows who he is. He knows what his gifts and talents are, and he operates within those gifts and talents. And we hire Rick a lot, probably once a month, to come out and use his grapple saw. And it's a play date with friends. And we always get it done. And he brings to me, because I'm usually Mr. Intensity because it's my job, and Rick shows up and I kind of go, okay, I have another brain on the job and I can plug in his hard drive and kind of just be like, all right, but don't miss the point that he has surrounded himself with people that are operating in their area of giftedness, and he allows them to do that. That is That is very smart. You know, a lot of times we can kick and scream and try to wear all the hats. Not necessarily the best, the best thing. Didn't mean to interrupt, but I want to drive that point home.
It's funny that you say that because my son and I were just having a talk on the way up here about this. And I said, in no way, shape, or form am I trying to interject in the fact that you need to run everything by me and you need to make all your decisions have to come to me. And everything that you do with the employees were asked to come through me. At this point right now, the business is yours. You need to run it the way you run it. I have people that look at me like, you gave it. I said, no, I didn't give it to my son. My son has no problem coming and talking to me about everything that's to be done about the business. But he also knows when he comes to talk to me about it, he's coming to talk to me about it. He's not coming to ask for my approval. He is allowed to make these things because he is so much better. When Sean started doing my son, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around. My son is so much better at this than I am. When we started getting Sean to do our estimates, I think the business profit jumped by 15% right away. Just what he was bringing in, how he could sell the people. He just did a phenomenal job of the sales. Cody, he went to school for business. He's a business person. He thinks about things. Cody puts more time thinking about business. He puts as much time thinking about business as I do about wanting to work and not have to go in the office. So he puts a lot.
I can resonate with that.
Yeah. There you go.
This is my office, which, by the way, only gets used for the podcast.
That's it.
So I'm yeah.
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 So it's funny, but so they do, and as it is, it took me a while, being a prideful person, to see, as Paul put it, to see those people that work in their lane, and they can operate in their lane, and they can do a phenomenal job in their lane. But when I try and cross over into their lane, no, and if I try and mess them up, and they have to do it in my lane, it doesn't work. You have to let them operate where they are, and they do. It's, if anything from the podcast, I'd like to tell people, don't be prideful. Your business will do so much better if you can say to yourself, I'm doing this, you're doing that. And at that point, I was never a great climber. Could I make money for my company? I could. But was I a great climber? No. So did I hold us back some? Yes. Until I got others that did, I held us back. So generally, all in all, it's great that it took me so long, but it also was a great learning experience to take that long and say, you know what, look back at yourself and say, you could have done it in a shorter amount of time. People pointed that out to me, and then, they didn't do the slam dunk where they went, told you so.
Yeah.
But they did come to me and look right at me and say, could have done it sooner, couldn't you?
Well, interestingly enough, I love what Athena said on the last episode, and it's a theme, is like success is 99% failure.
Mm-hmm.
So the reality of it is, all of us, I use this, I know you love the images too. I think about like just groping around in the dark. We start these businesses because, for me, number one is I don't want to be told what to do. I mean, I hate to say that. And that,
yeah.
There's probably unfortunately, there's probably a lot of pride in that. I have an authority issue.
Yep.
When someone says do or don't do, my first reaction is always to do the opposite.
Yep.
Okay. That doesn't make me a great business owner.
No.
But the point is that I want to drive home a little bit is that I see you to some degree, and maybe you'll recoil at this a little bit. I see you as a bit of a visionary. And I want to ask you about the knuckle booms and the grapple saws right here, because I think it ties in with it. I don't know, man. Like, I think so. Your gift, one of your gifts is grinding, is working, is getting up every day with a good attitude, showing up. Hey, how do we get this done? Being able to go long if you need to, whatever it takes. That's kind of the way I see Rick Yoos, is like, whatever it takes to get this done. If this breaks, we'll use that. If we don't have this tool, we'll figure that out. If we need to redirect this from here, we'll do it. But that early adopter mentality, that curiosity, I think, is what drove you a lot. And I think, and I see this in my son, and you talking about taking things apart reminds me of him. There's an element of courage in that. So there's curiosity, but then the courage to go, I'm taking this apart.
100%.
And, you know, I'll call Rick or Mason will call Rick and go, hey, I'm having a problem with this. And this dude will go, okay, open up the cover, that little yellow cover. See it? You look in, there's two things sticking up. One's got a yellow wire, and you're going like, how the frig does this dude from 60 miles away, he's giving me a schematic out of his freaking head. So that's what he does. But I'm saying all that to say, I see you as a little bit of a visionary who sees the way tools would apply in his business and equipment, and then has the courage to kind of step out in faith. And you know what? No, they're not all going to work out. Sometimes you're going to buy that grinder and it's like, oh, you know what? We didn't realize these engines suck, so it blows up every 6 months or whatever, you know.
That's a true life story right there.
Yeah, I kind of seem to like.
It is. It is.
Okay.
You know?
I was going to throw somebody under the bus, but I have no problem with it.
You know, but that's how they fix. Well, they actually got to the point. Didn't you have a situation with the one guy? Was it Ken or somebody from Vermeer who would say, "Let us know what you think about this," or like Rick would actually give them feedback on some of their design stuff. Yeah. You know.
He said, I was the first one to get that grinder, and I did get that grinder, that 352 grinder, and they put a 35-horse diesel in it that was turbocharged, but the motor couldn't take the turbocharge.
Oh, okay.
They had taken a, how can I put it? They had taken a nag that would pull a cart every day of the week for 50 years, and then the horse would drop dead. Or they took the nag, turned it into a thoroughbred, and it could only pull the cart for 6 months.
Got it.
And then it was done.
I see what you mean. I got it.
You know what I mean? It was done, clearly done. That's how it went.
Yeah, well said.
So they put these motors in there. They were told by the people that made the motors that the motors would last. And the motors, I got 1,000 hours out of it and it blew up. They had no problem saying, we're going to put a new motor in for you. Okay. 3 motors in the same machine. And they finally said, we're not putting any more motors in them. Well, they knew, and nobody would stand behind somebody else. It wouldn't stand behind somebody else. It wouldn't stand behind somebody else. And the grinder was nice, but the motor was junk. A lot of people had changed motors and put other motors in them to make them run and make them work well. But it was a bad thing. That was, I don't know, that was the one I lost some money on because I had to be the first one. I had, the serial number was 006.
Wow.
So there was 4 others or 5 others on top of the 2 prototypes, and I just didn't. Yeah. But that's the looking at that, the visionary part of it is, and again, wanting to, have, but, the grapple saws, we can go into that or whatever. You tell me where you want to go.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that was the segue, but.
Right.
That was going to be my thing.
I don't know if Rick had wanted to say something or had something.
No. Just on what you said is a well said way of what you explained, which this all ties together with Paul bringing up. You brought up curiosity.
Yes,
curiosity. Because I, because of how I grew, born deaf and everything. Curiosity. I couldn't do curiosity.
Right.
I just had to do what I was told to do because you're gonna be in a better place if you do this. So curiosity. I was terrified of it. Yep. I just did the thing that people said it will work. Right.
Yep.
But then there's courage that you need with that because you took your dad, let's say your dad's only radio, you took it apart, and I did. You had to have the courage to be like, sorry, I don't know how to fix it. You don't have a radio anymore,
right?
So
courage to go against your parents.
Yeah. You see what I mean? So so I'm just what you just said there about getting the number 6 stump grinder and then finding out it's a thoroughbred that lasts 6 months and not a workhorse with 20
there you
years.
Go, perfectly.
Yep. But the courage should be jump in there as a visionary and see, like, be a part of that process to see what you or help the company do better. Right. Moving forward to make your job easier is awesome. So I just wanted to touch on that.
No, that's
because Jay, when I started getting into competition scene, the first people that I got to really connect with on a deeper level, was Jake Riggs and Derek Martin, and but when I got in, I was so focused on the body movement, and they were talking about techniques and innovation of the hitch climber, and then you do this and that, and I was just I don't know what you're saying, I don't understand, but that does help you in the long run, having that mindset, plus training, but you need that curiosity and courage to experiment with things to help you be more efficient. And unfortunately, you're going 99% failure. before you get to the point of like,
Right.
this works, and
Yep.
then you go fail again afterwards.
It's
So
interesting.
just,
It's just interesting. You're stimulating a really cool, like, philosophical thought that I really don't know if it's true or not, but it's almost as if, because you're talking about a little bit of this and a little bit of that, a little courage and a little curiosity. It's almost like it's an amalgam, right? There's a blend, there's a mixing of things that it takes, like, that to create a certain gift or to create outcomes. It's usually not just one thing.
Correct.
It's like a mixture of
Right.
things that we bring to the table. But I'm trying to think. I remember the one year we went to Expo and you were doing the meet and greets with the other grapple saw
Yeah,
guys. So
yeah.
that first meeting, how many guys were at that very first one? It was not many, was it?
People showed up. I think there wasn't a lot of machines,
Like, talk
but there
to
were a
me.
lot of, there was like 35 people showed up, but only like 11 people owned machines.
Right. So do you know, because this is what I'm saying about, or first of all, for those of you that don't know, like I said, Rick had a knuckle boom back in the 90s, and we had it. We had one also, but smaller units, less capacity, less reach, that we would just kind of, our main thing was loading logs with it. And then the occasional, there's a trunk inside the fence behind the shed. Hey, I think we can reach that. Let's pull it out and do that, right?
Correct.
And then sort of matured, and you had several renditions, and then you bought your Atlas, which took you from, what, about a 35 foot to, what was that, like 80?
65.
Oh, 65 feet.
35 to
And that was
65.
like a 10 and a half ton meter, right?
Right.
And then from there, what was the next one? Was it the Gila?
Yep.
Okay, and that was 25 ton meter
Yep.
with about
83.
80. Is that with the pullout?
Yeah, 83
Okay.
feet with the pullout. Yep.
Okay, so, and then the next one was Arborist Prime,
Yep.
and that was the first one you put the grapple on.
Right. Yeah. So I had started building that truck. It was a 40-ton meter Powfinger. It had 83 feet of hydraulic reach and 100 feet of 2 manual extensions.
Okay.
And we were building the truck. And all of a sudden, there was a post on Tree Buzz that said, "What do you guys think of this?" And there was 2 pictures, both of a Powfinger crane with a grapple saw on the end of it.
And that was the Mechano?
That was a guy named Glenn Gerasimic. Shout out to Glenn. He's pretty much started this whole thing in the United States. And he put that on Tree Buzz, and I saw that freaking post, and I'm like, no way, dude.
So did that immediately, you were like, boom.
My truck was already in production, and they couldn't change it.
Oh, okay.
And I couldn't get the grapple saw on it because I didn't have the hoses to do it. So I called Powfinger, and I said, I have to have that. Now there was only
how do we do this?
there was
Yeah,
only
exactly.
there was only 2 of them in the country right now, and I have to have that. And I called him, and he said that's a $27,000 upgrade.
Okay.
Not the saw, that just the hydraulic stuff to put
Yeah.
on the crane.
Is that the hose reel?
The hoses,
and
yeah, all
thing,
the
and
stuff that had to be on there.
has to be able to supply. And
So I told him, I said, I don't care what you have to do. I said, but make sure that that's sent with the crane when it comes from Austria. We're putting that grapple saw on. And my Powfinger dealer goes, we are? And I said, yeah, we are. So he checked into it. We went up to Pittsburgh to see Glenn Gerasimic's truck, see it working and all. And here we are, like the 3 of us are talking right now. And here he is. I'm talking to him, and he's taking a tree down. He took a 18-inch silver maple tree, 65 feet tall, blah, blah, blah. Took it down in 45 minutes while we're talking to each other. Laid it on the ground. His guy grabbed the mini and put it all in the chipper. It was like, like you're standing there and you're catching flies with your mouth because it's like, there's no way
you
that
can't believe what you're saying.
Yeah, that just happened. So I have to have it. Well, there was only 2 in his and another one. And so anyway, they, that's how it kind of worked out to be. And so I was like, so we found out where we could buy the grapple saw because you couldn't buy them in the United States anywhere. We found out where we could buy that. We had one shipped over. We had the thing in. Then they converted my whole crane into that. We didn't get the conversion completed for the November 15 PCIA in Pittsburgh. So I drove the truck out without the grapple saw working, but we hung the grapple saw on.
I remember this.
And it was in the booth, and it sat there, and we had tons of people asking about it and all. And the other company that was building them in Ohio, they had one of their trucks there, and that's kind of how it all started. TCI of 15 was the first grapple saws on the floor.
10 years.
Yeah,
So they have really exploded in 10 years.
Oh yeah. I mean,
yeah.
so we didn't have it at the first at that, but the next 2016 we had. It had been a whole year with the grapple saws, and there was 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 of them. So we had a meet and greet, and the guys that had them, they all showed up, and then their spouses and friends. And so we had like 45 or so people in a bar and just had a good time. And now the grapple saw thing has just gone from ground zero to atom bomb, in the way it's working.
Yeah.
And that's the history as I know it.
So your grapple saw truck setup was, I always said, I used to just say to Mason, I'm like, I think he was like the 6th guy in the country. So was it like 3, 5?
No, it was 5.
Okay. So number 5, and it's cool that you know that, because now there's probably hundreds of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't keep track now.
No.
Yes.
Little history, little I don't know, self-promotion or whatever, but I remember, and I don't know, because you came out to a job with me, in Audubon, big Norway maple, driveway, bungalow house. It was like back. And
Yep.
I don't know that I highly doubt it was your first job, but I think it probably was your first job for hire with the grapple saw.
Yep. Yeah.
And
Actually, it probably was, because my second job, my first job with the new crane, the yellow one, you were the first job for that truck.
Yeah, no, I remember this.
Yep.
But I remember I had a full team there because everybody's learning. And I had, I don't know, say 4 guys or 5 guys.
Yep.
And I remember you saying to me, like, listen, there's a learning curve here. I'm kind of trying to like figure this out. And you were, grappling and bringing, and I split off and I took 2 guys and we went and did something else, because it was like you were putting the stuff right behind the chipper.
Crazy. Yeah.
And I'm going like, what? And then got it done. And so we double dipped that day. And I thought to myself, and then fast forward, and now it's just like boom, boom. Like Ben does these time lapses, and it's time lapse, but it actually feels sometimes like that's how it's going.
Yeah.
If you get, that was yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday's
It's
job
just like, wow.
was I only was right in front of it, and I didn't have to move the crane left or right.
Okay. Oh.
It was up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. That's all I did. And it was 114 foot red oak.
Wow.
Kind of over the road a little bit, straight up. Just barely got up to where I had to be to get the couple of pieces, and I'm bringing them down. And like, when I go to these jobs, maybe I'm just naive and all, but they never cease to amaze me what they want to put me on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I liken it to on some of the jobs, it's like they want you to pull a rabbit out of the hat. They don't give you the rabbit, and they don't give you the hat. And they still want you to get the job done.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that we get into and it's great. It's challenging. Like I said, we're problem solvers. We want to get this job done.
Sure.
It's like you're talking about those sweet gum trees that we did for you. I rolled up on that job. I said, I'm going to disappoint him. Didn't. Worked out really well. But I'd rather go into it with, I'm going to disappoint you, than go to, got that all day long.
Yeah.
And then be like, sorry, guys, someone is climbing.
Yeah.
So I'd rather, So, but yes, it's.
That was fun because we employed the lift and like you grapple sawed a bunch, and then we had to sling and cut, and I was able to sling and cut from the buck, the lift, which is always nicer than being on the spar, little comfort level. But so when you see these trucks at work, and then you see, because a lot of times what happens is maybe we get somebody in the industry who sees it, wants it, can afford it, signs up for the loan, gets it, and don't really understand what they have. What do you think is from a safety standpoint, like one of the biggest drawbacks, or maybe even some stories you've heard or seen on some of these chat forums and threads where you're like, this person's going to really get themselves in trouble? Like, what do you, I guess, just from a purely safety standpoint, or maybe even limitations of, a grapple truck, like what are some of the big scary things that you see that people can get themselves in trouble with these trucks?
The problem, I think, in the whole industry, and people will be like, is that number one, they'll allow anybody to buy one. Number two, training is lacking 90%. Some guys that buy these trucks have never operated anything more than a stump grinder, hydraulically, or even maybe a bucket truck. But there's a lot to technology. It can work for you, it can work against you. And if you don't have if you don't have common sense to know that if you can't do it or you don't have the knowledge to do it, you should reach out and ask someone about it. I think that's gotten most of the people in a lot of the problems they've gotten into. I think that, tree guys should know wood weights. They should know branch weights. They should know. I asked early on in my career, how do you do a crane pick? And how do you estimate the weight if you're doing branches and you're doing log? Well, you know the log weight because they've done it as a green weight. But how do you figure out what the branches weigh? And early on, this guy, super guy, I don't know, we're allowed to drop names?
Yes.
It's just Mark Chisholm. That's all right.
Nice. Yeah.
Anyway, my question I posed to Mark was, how do you figure out branch weight, Mark? Like if you're going to pick a piece and it's 37 feet long or 40 feet long, it's got all kinds of branches, it's got wood on it. How do you figure it out? He said, I pretty much treat the branches as I would the smallest diameter of wood that's on the pick. So let's just say the butt piece is 14 inches and it tapers down into like 8 inches. But then from there, it's all branches. He says, I just add everything up into 8 inches. And then I'd rather be over a little bit than be under a little bit. So that if that's the case, and I estimate that the wood weight would be, it'd be a 34 feet long piece of 8 inch.
13 inch diameter.
That's how I figure it all out. And if there's leaves on it, he said he just calculated in my head. I just go a little bit further on that. So that was the very beginning, because the first crane job I did, first crane removal of a tree, was with Mark's father, Steve Chisholm Sr. He came all the way down and he talked us through the whole job. He stayed there. He showed us how to, put this in, calculate that. He was very good at what he did for teaching us. Dave Parker was the climber.
Was this with your crane, the knuckle or stick crane?
No, this stick crane. This is.
I don't think a lot of people realize, like you now think of the Chisholms and you always think Mark.
Yep. And
a lot of people know Steven. Steven is an incredibly bright and gifted, talented arborist.
Yep. But
Steve Sr.'s getting up there now, and I don't think a lot of people realize what a brain that guy has.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like that dude is. He's
the guy that you'd probably say he's probably forgotten more than we can remember right now.
Yes.
It's kind of how it is.
Yep.
But I mean, the whole family is talented. I mean, Steven and his diagnostics and his tree ID and all, phenomenal. Mark and his climbing, the father and his mom. His mom was gifted and all that too.
Yep.
God rest her soul.
Yep.
Generally, all in all, it's just. But he taught me how to do that in the beginning. So there's questions I had, and same thing. We're back to that relationship thing.
Yep.
It's
always like comes back to that.
Everybody, might look at Mark and they might say, "Well, Mark, he's Mark Chisholm. He's Mark Chisholm. He puts his pants on the same way I do, one leg at a time." But Mark, when you get to know Mark, he's just a laid back, genuine, just nice guy. It's just all it is about it. Just generally nice guy, and he's good about about everything.
He loves the trade.
Correct.
And he'll do whatever it takes to serve, right? So that's kind of what we're talking about all the time on this podcast. And that's, again, to echo what you're saying, those relationships. Boom.
Yeah, still that. Yeah. I mean, that's like, Mark, you're talking about a relationship. Did I ever feel I would be in this relationship? I didn't think I would. Mark introduced me to another guy that, we can drop names, a guy named Jared Arbogina.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I would have never known Jared if I didn't, Mark, I knew Mark and all. And so here it is. I mean, Jared knows my name, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So here I am how long ago was it? January? I was out in Montana at the Montana show for their what would be our NJAISA. And we're out in Montana, and Jared's doing a talk for the Montana thing. And I'm just like walking down the hallway, and I'm not really got my head down and off to one side, but I'm just walking right along and on. I see Jared walking towards me, and I kind of like know him, but it's not like I bring myself to the point of saying, I know him. I know who he is, and we've shaken hands before, not? Do you know he makes a point to stop and talk to me? And I think to myself, I put him up here.
Yeah, sure. Of
and
course.
It's like I put him where I put Mark up there, and I'm like thinking to myself, he stopped and talked to me, and he stopped and talked to me for like 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things, it's like, again, knew who I was, but I didn't know he knew who I was like that. Now, Jared has also started a crane company, and he's kind of backing off of he's doing the climbing, but he's backing off a little bit, and he's doing a lot with a knuckle boom, which he has a grapple saw on. He had a lot of questions, and I tried to answer them the best of my ability. But did I ever think that I would know, and I'm sure, Brick's going to look at me like he's going to give me like, I put Brick up there with all my other relationships, and Brick and I have only known each other for a couple of years. Brick and I have I have a joke. Brick thinks you're too tired, you're childish, Rick. But Brick and I, we'll walk through, and Brick will be talking to people, and I feel that those relationships that he has at that point, that's very important. So Brick and I'll walk past Brick, and I'll stick my elbow out.
Yeah.
And Brick at this point now sticks his elbow out. And I say to myself, it's who you rub elbows with. Who do you rub elbows with? Who can you, and Brick and I can do that and not say a word to each other. And maybe a day later, we can say hello. And we understand that that's where we are at this point right now. To me, as an older person, I believe that what he was doing was more important than him stopping what he was doing and breaking that up to talk with me. He might not think that way, or some people might not think that way. But to me, it's like, you continue that. We can always catch up with each other.
No, we're on the same page with that.
Yeah,
100%.
so we can always, and I
love it.
I don't, because you may be learning something there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to bring something up, and and then hopefully people don't get a bad idea of who you are. But so usually Paul's my type, but Brick and Brick's really like not my type.
Yeah.
But I was happy.
Where are we going with this?
I love it.
But Brick reached out to me.
Now I'm scared.
Or I reached out to Brick. I forget which way it was. And Brick really wanted to be at TCI.
Yes.
And Brick couldn't figure out how to get to TCI. And I said, Brick, there's a bed in the room.
I remember this.
If you want to, Brick, it's yours. There's a card at the desk for you. And he's like, really? He said, well, I don't know, and the family, and I'm not sure, and I might be. I said, Brick, I don't care if you come in at 3:00 in the morning and you want to crash, you get up here, it's there for you. It's one of these things where it's like, it's the same thing about the younger people. Okay. Brick has a family, and Brick loves his children. And I can tell that. And his children love him. His whole family loves each other. And I can see all that stuff, but he doesn't want to leave them. But he wanted to get to TCI and not hurt family. And that's why I said to him, but if the olders can't give the youngers a little something, it's like, what are we in this for?
What are we doing?
Yeah. What are we in this for?
By the way, I was hurt by that whole.
Yeah.
I was hurt by. I was alone in my room that night. I don't know.
That's it.
Yeah.
No, dude. And like I said, I appreciate that, and I want the listeners to know that I didn't, because I said it was about 1:00 in the morning. I'll probably get there. And you, a man of your word, you're like, listen, car's there, just come and crash. I walk in that room, try not to kick the bed, and went right to sleep. And then we talked, and actually, I got up and you already went down.
Right.
And then I met up with you. I was like, thank you. You're like, it's fine. I was like, dude, so.
just to know it. It's just that fact that he knew he could come there, he could meet with his friends, get something taken care of, and still not put his family out.
Exactly.
And that to me is like, I mean, I've not done the best of my life with family. I do pretty good, but I mean, divorced twice, remarried to the first one. Kind of like it's a long story and all, but generally, all in all, she was the best thing, and she still is. But I didn't treat her like that, so it was a bad way. Yeah. So to learn from my youngers about what family's all about, I kind of need to do that, and that's kind of where with that it works out. But just to get back, because I know the other guy in the room is hurt, that I didn't mention the fact that. For 12 or 14 TCIs we roomed together.
I'm sure, right?
Yeah, and his wife.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't she a piece of work? Paul's wife.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
So I came in the room the one day, and Paul had already gotten there, and he had already unpacked and all. And I got in there, and I came in and I started unpacking my stuff, and Paul goes into his suitcase and he pulls out a pair of flannel lounge pants, like flannel sleep pants, whatever. He goes, Raina thought you'd really like these on me. It cuddled. You'd like it because it was the way it cuddled my butt in the back, and I'm like, wow. That's that when you got a hell of a bromance when the wife is sending special sleep pants for you.
But, dude, the wife's always like, is this another boyfriend?
Yeah.
Like, does Rick know about Brick? Like, whatever. Well, it was funny. I was telling Brick earlier because we were working through some stuff for Arbor Expo via text yesterday, and I had Mia in the group thing and all, and we were just room arrangements and such this and all. And Mia, well,
absolutely.
And she's got that little zing if she wants it, right? And she goes, do you guys need a king size bed? I'm like, I will F you up. She's like, you will if you can, So no, these exchanges are.
You probably didn't expect to go this far, but we,
yeah,
generally. So that's again relationships. We can go back, and this whole thing is going to be about relationships.
Yeah.
It's just how it is, And I was invited to go to Montana.
Yeah.
Because they said that they, would you like to come out? I said, yeah, I'd love to come out to your thing. But beautiful state, beautiful people, phenomenal. Just, but it's the same now. I've cultivated friendships now in Montana. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It is cool. And the industry is unique like that. I tell people, even if they want to come and like do tree work and learn, and you can just do rudimentary things like run ropes, be efficient, stack brush. I'm like, you can go anywhere in the world where trees are growing near people and work. If you take your heart, your work ethic, this ethos of relationship,
right,
and you develop a rudimentary skill set, people would love to have somebody like that on their team, and you can go anywhere in the world. And we're blessed to know people. I think it's Stefano over in Italy, and like, I'm not his friend per se, but I'm friendly with him because of Mark, and same with Jared. And, if you invest in these things, if you were to make a call and, hey, I'm going to be in town, like, whatever, not that I'm going to flop. I'm never going to invite myself to somebody's house. But the point is like, grab a coffee. Mm-hmm. Can I come out and work with you guys?
I think the best way to say it is I like the image of everybody's in a fishbowl. Right? Mm-hmm. But if you don't ever leave the fishbowl and make connection, you'll never be able to go to somebody else's fishbowl.
Yep.
Or be invited.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And then you're like, oh, cool, this is awesome. You go back home to yours.
Yep.
Right.
And the more you keep doing that, the more the phone calls will come.
Yeah.
So if you don't connect with people, you stay in your fishbowl and you end up working.
Yep. Yeah. Correct.
To
all your
point,
life,
like,
and then
you work all your life, and then that's it.
You get a gold watch, and you don't know anybody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's just,
So I just wanted to ask you a question with it.
Sure.
The knuckle, because I love, and I'm sure you do too, but I love when you talk about the knuckle booms, the size, the weight, the ability, all that stuff. Is there a way because knuckle booms have exploded in these last 10 years, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people listening that will listen to this that are either getting into it or already have just started with it. Is there I don't say how-to guide, but like a how-to guide to kind of get into this if they do decide to go in the knuckle boom direction.
Right. So there used to be, well, early on,
Yeah.
it was a tight community. I mean, we were bouncing ideas off of each other in the early years, first year, 2 years, 3 years. People were calling, oh, I'm having this problem. Oh, I'm having that. There was a phenomenal, and because it's exploded and so many people have gotten into it and so many people have sold it, there isn't as much outreach that you can have.
Okay.
But if you can find anybody who's got a lot of years under their belt, 5, 6, 7 years, and you want to do this, find their phone number, get their name, call them up. Because I can tell you right now, anybody that was in the first 3 years, they will talk to you forever about if you wanted to do this. And I've got a good friend, and I'm going to put him on the spot here because his name is James Matt. It's called Carolina Tree Service. And you can see him. I jokingly call him Steven Spielberg because he's one of the guys that did a whole lot of the videos for the knuckle booms and blah, blah, blah. And I can tell you that, man, and he'll smile if he listens to this. He was on the phone with me once a week for 9 months straight.
Wow.
Because back 10 years ago, it's still a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. $450,000 to buy a truck.
Yeah.
And his family is like, it's the same story I can tell you about my family. My wife is like, you're going to bankrupt the company and we can't do this and you can't have a blah, 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 you this and you that. And we had the truck for 3 years and the wife goes, this is really a good decision. You really made a good decision. And at that point, being who I am, I have to watch because we're sitting in the office together and both got high back chairs and they're kind of back to back of each other. And the first thought that can go through your head is like, you want to turn around and do the freaking slam dunk and say, yeah, well, I told you so. And you freaking gave you a hard time for 3 years. Or you can be gracious and go, I didn't think, I wasn't as alarmed as you were about it. I'm pretty sure it was going to work and all. So that's the kind of thing that's hard. Well, this guy, James, wanted a truck. And he, to this day, he continues to tell me he's sorry for bothering me for 8 or 9 months, every week. I said, James, you better yourself. Did you do the right thing? Did you not, hurt your family? He goes, well, yeah. I said, so at what point did that be a bothersome thing? Because I would have told you, listen, James, I just can't talk with you right now.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they were 25 minutes and he was asking the same questions each and every time because of the money he was going to spend.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, reach out to the guys that have a little bit of time in it and, ask. So is there a real how-to? I mean, I am a giant fan of YouTube University, but they don't give you any practical experience. So if you're going to do YouTube University, make sure you can talk to somebody that's got the practical experience and all, because at this point right now, on the low end, you're spending $600,000 on a truck. I have no idea. These 32 and 35-year-old guys that have had a tree business for 5 years and they show up with one of these trucks. I have no idea if they promised their first 3 born children, to pay for this loan or what they did, because that's a lot of money. And with no credit history, it's tough.
Yeah.
If they can do it and it works for them, phenomenally great. That's wonderful. Just if you're going to spend that kind of money, make sure that when you're going to do it, because there's a lot of guys out there that have done it, and there's a lot of trucks up for sale right now because they didn't do their due diligence. They didn't spend their time and, what can I do? How can I market it? Am I going to have a year's worth of payments? So if I don't work a lot, you can't use these trucks on every job. Can they help out wonderfully? Yes. But you've got to understand what you're campaigning and how much money you have to spend monthly just to break even. So, yes, it's a boon. It's a technology. It's phenomenal. Just make sure that, if you're going to get it, it's.
And just not everybody has to have one. Like we have a knuckle boom. Actually, it's one of Rick's old cranes. It's his Gila crane that we have. But for me, currently, as I'm constructed right now, it's easier and more efficient for me to hire him in. We have him on retainer once a month. I usually figure out some project to do unless things are tight, maybe like through the winter time or whatever. But he owns the truck. He insures the truck. He has all that documentation squared away. He knows how to operate it, run it. He's got to maintain it. You know what I mean? He knows all the ins and outs. He's spending the money. Like, it's just, for me, that's a more of a dovetail fit. And he's an experienced operator. So when I call him in, he's going to grapple. And if we have to sling and cut, I know I have a good operator on the other end of the controls. And the other day we did one with the pine trees, and I'm slinging and cutting, and I'm not worried about him. So for me, so a lot of times we can get swept up in the, I need to have one of those, and that's fine. But I think Rick makes a great point of do your due diligence and ask the questions up front. Maybe that business model of owning one isn't for you. Maybe it is, and that's great. But you should know who you are and what you want out of your business before you make any decision. Especially spending over $500,000. It's a lot,
especially that amount.
Well, and again, we'll go very quickly. We'll go very starting my business. Okay, I started my business with a $25,000 loan. $25,000.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like a week's worth of work.
I was, I was going to be like, and I was told by the bank that I was going to fail. Oh. And I told, you're not going to be able to pay this loan back. And, there's too many pine trees. You're going to have to spend too much money on getting rid of pine wood, because you could sell the oak wood as firewood and make some money there. And they told me, well, it was a 5-year loan for $25,000. I mean, I take a 5-year loan for $500,000 now. So it's changed, but it's not. And it's like, I paid the loan off in 3 years, and I wanted to go back and tell the guy that he was wrong. Mm-hmm. But think about, what, $25,000, and I didn't even use the money properly. I took part of the money and put a down payment on a brand new dump truck. So now I had a loan on the loan.
Okay, yeah.
And I bought a stump grinder and I bought a chipper. Okay, bad business. Just that's who I was, bad business. It wasn't right. But now it's like with my son and his being going to school, going back to this, I told my children, I said, you're going to learn to work with your hands. Because as Paul said, you can go anywhere in the country and you can get a job. You can go, if you want to go drive across country and you want to do pickup work throughout the whole country and see the whole United States, you'll be able to make a living. Anywhere you want. You go anywhere, there's got to be a tree service. I said, and then if you want to go to school, go ahead, go to college. I have no problem with that. But if college falls through, you know how to work with your hands. And both my son, he went to college to be a police officer. Didn't quite work out, so he's in the business. But being in a business school, he runs the business really well. His sister, she's a teacher. She's a pastry chef. She is a phenomenal kid. They both, we're lucky our kids have grown up very well. And I say it with Paul's, watching Brick's children grow up, but they're landing on their feet. Our children are landing on their feet and they're doing pretty well. But my daughter, 12 years being a teacher, but if she had to right now, she could come back into the family business, which she is in the family business because she does all the scheduling for the crane service. But she can still land on her feet. She still knows how to work with her hands. So these things about, teaching what we've learned, don't work.
Yeah, just FYI. And this is, obviously this is a yuck fest because we're all friends here. And I just, I love your kids and I'm blessed to know them. Like really, to watch them grow up and this unique dynamic. And again, relationships, it's a theme. We're beating this up, right? But this is why it's important, because there's this wild little dynamic. Like you and I became friends and your kids were little. I had no kids and I wasn't married. And then I got married and then I watched your kids grow up. And Cody, I always joke like, Cody's got a very baritone voice. Wasn't always that way. I'm like, no. you had your little guy voice when I knew you when you were this tall. Now he's this tall and he's and now, then I started having kids and you've worked with Michaela and you've worked with Madison and you've worked with Mason. And it's just this really, cool dynamic. But I say all that to say, I want to circle back to something because sometimes we try to go a little bit deep here and try to give people a little bit of meat. I think we covered equipment pretty good, business things and whatnot. You mentioned family and, you mentioned it here. So you kind of opened the door a little bit. Totally. Excuse me. Things you did wrong and lessons you learned and things you did right. Because now I see a strong family ethos. I see Charles and you working together. I see the kids involved and I've seen your business really just get, and I'm excited to have been an observer of that and watched the evolution of just all these things that you've done over the years. But you haven't hidden the fact that you made mistakes or whatever. So let's look at it from the standpoint of, say, these 30-something guys, right? They get in, maybe they're single or maybe they're newly married. They're about to have kids, and in their mind, they're like, gotta go, gotta grind, gotta put my 10s and 12s in, gotta work Saturdays, that's very easy for production-minded people to get swept up into.
Yep.
I mean, you don't have to necessarily go off into the weeds about big mistakes you made and how they got fixed or whatever, but maybe just look at it from a standpoint of like advice. I love how you said it. The olders need to kind of reach out to the youngers. So if you're going to mentor someone's like, hey man, I'm going to, like, what things do you think are important? What would you say to somebody that's trying to venture into this industry and make hay? Because production is important. And as you know, providers and the way we look, like we want to go out and like work for our families, but you know, maybe like what would you say to somebody? Like what's some important things that you think people miss?
As I've said about you and Brick, your family, that was my fault. You know, I wanted to have kids. Absolutely. Was I there for the kids all the time? Not at all. Did I work more than I should have? Absolutely. Was my first divorce because I worked too hard? Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I have I'm not proud of it.
Sure.
It's not a prideful thing. It's more of a matter of, please don't do this. Please, you know, because if you think about it, if you look at the divorce rate in tree service, it's high. It's very, very high. It really is, because we are, as you said, we grind, you know, and then when there's time, you know, I'm still making some of these smaller mistakes, still making them, and I've got to be like reeled back in and told, you know, but she now doesn't have a problem telling me. She used to have a problem telling me that I was making mistakes, you know, and the first divorce was because of the fact that I wasn't spending time with the family. And she says, like, this is ridiculous. You're out in the garage all the time working on the equipment. You know, my excuse, of course, I find excuses for it. But I have guys that count on me. We have to go out and work. This machinery has to be fixed so that we can go to work tomorrow. And she's like, you know, like every night, this is a lazy thing on my part. You can wash your hands. You can come in and have dinner with us. You can go back outside and you can continue on. But because I was lazy and I was selfish, I want to get this finished before I come in, because I want to come in and stay in. Well, now your dinner's cold. It's 9:00. Children haven't seen you. I'm unhappy. That's a huge mistake. The admin things that we talked about, being in the office, you know, you can afford to have that person, because if it takes away from, so now I got to fix the equipment, still got to do the inspect, still got to do the estimates, still have to take all the phone calls down. So she started taking the phone calls down. Well, then that got to be a rub, because she worked a full-time job, took to the children, and and scheduled
the appointments.
And now she's holding that. Not that she was holding it against me, but she's like, I'm trying to help out, and you're still not reciprocating.
Right.
And that was the biggest thing in my life. And have I corrected it? I haven't. She's crying out to go on a vacation, and I haven't done it. And I have to go. I have to plan a vacation for her. I have to plan for her to go out. She loves taking care of the grandchildren, but she wants to just go away. I'm not a traveler. I don't like to go. She loves to go. She's been to Italy. She's been to France. She's been to Spain. She's been to Ireland. She's been to London. She hasn't been to Scotland. She missed Scotland twice now. She's going to Scotland. I'm just not a person that goes there. Although I've been watching some YouTube stuff, and I'll tell you what, that freaking the West Highlands of Scotland is phenomenal.
I'll bet you there's cool trees out there too. Like you probably could, if you saw the right stuff, you probably would.
But yeah,
you probably would love it. And I don't know how you are. I call it inertial friction. I don't know if that's a term or if I made it up. But inertial friction is what we have to overcome to break away. Right. Or even like to go to the gym. I'm sitting in my house and it's like there's this inertial friction. I have to break it. And then once I'm through the gym door, I'm good. I plan a vacation, and then like 3 days, a week before, I start to have problems. My wife goes, here he goes. I don't know. I can't leave. How's everything? Blah, blah, blah. I'm throwing like a little mini man tantrum. And then it's like, okay, get in the car and drive. And then I'm like 3 hours from home and I'm like, okay, I'm good.
That's
But I have to have, it's that inertial friction. And then I do know how to have a good time once I'm away.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I'll tell you all about that.
It's for flannel pants.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. This is a PG rated podcast. So anyway, so you're right. And you're right about that, like, it's almost like you said, it's like, it's hard
there's
to get.
fingers like on the driveway.
Yeah.
And you just can't get your body past those fingers to get out into the real world.
Yeah.
And this is a story about a friend that I knew who had never been away from his house. He was 22 years old. He'd never been away from his house more than 5 miles. His father used to live in Tamaqua, Pennsylvania, way up in Jim Thorpe area, blah, blah, blah. And his father was a construction guy, and he worked his way down to the shore because he was working on the Northeast Extension, building all the bridges coming down to Philadelphia. Well, then he was down this far, and he decided, well, let's go a little bit further. So he relocated his whole family all the way to Atlantic City area. Well, the guy was born there. But this guy, he was having heart palpitations because his father they were into hot rods. His father had old cars up in Tamaqua still, and he wanted to go up there. And his father goes, okay, we're going to go. He was having heart palpitations because he was literally having cold sweats thinking about the fact that he's never been past Zion Road, which is only 5 miles from his house. That's how, like you're saying about trying to get, but then guy went, he went to this, I went up there with him. We went up there, we stayed overnight. We got the cars on two trailers and we drove them home again. After that, you couldn't get the freaking guy to stay home. Now he's out here. Now he's going to Cape. He's going to Cape May, which is only 30 miles away. He's going to Cape May. He's going to North Jersey. He's going to blah, blah. He's going to Delaware to get a car. It took that one thing to kind of get him, but then he enjoyed it. Yep. My father was the same way. My father would come home and that was it. He was home. That was it. Yep. He started taking cruises and trips. Where are you going next? Yeah. Where you going? Yeah. Same old thing. It's just, and I haven't quite gotten to that point with this. So I've kind of got to watch.
Yeah, and sometimes you do like the way you're very good at what am I trying to say? Sacrificing for others or ministering, like giving. So maybe this is an area where you have to view it like that to get yourself over the hump. Right. That hey, I'm investing, and this is what I got to do.
I said to my daughter, I said, you got to help me plan something for mom. Right, you have to give me something so that we can do this because this was one of those things. I mean, she has everything else, so it's like
and you've earned it, in my opinion. Like just watching as an outside observer, watching you grow. Then now Cody's running the tree thing, and you're doing the crane thing, and like you guys, from an outsider's vantage point, it's like man, like things are moving, and it's like you've worked hard your whole entire life. You got the bumps and bruises to prove it, and as an observer and a friend, it's easy for me to kind of sit here in my chair and go.
Yeah, right.
No. So in what you just said though, for the listeners, I'm with the municipality, and I did have my own business. It was supplemental, so I didn't have the stress factors of I have to do this if it doesn't work. Right. So that was to the point when I started getting good at it. I actually sat down with my wife and said, "Listen, these are two options. I go this way, but I'm not going to be available. Or we do this, but we just live lower means, but just make it work within those means."
Yep.
And she went, "I'd rather do this." I'm like, "That's fine." The question is for the listeners. You mentioned what happened, but what would be how can you still be hungry, and do all the things you do, but make sure you can keep a healthy relationship? So what do you think you would do differently, or advise somebody else to do, and still be able to do this stuff?
Listen to others.
Okay.
And don't be so prideful. Like, no, I know. No, I know better. No, we're gonna do it this way. And somebody else points out to you that no, maybe you should do it this way. And it's like, no, I like my way.
Very true.
And it's like it's so to that. I mean, because the children have been very because the children went through all the bad.
Yeah. Right.
They went through all the bad and they gone through all the good, and Cody tells me, he still relives this. And you hear about PTSD or whatever that is. You hear about this. Until you live it with someone. He's 32 years old. He still says to me, I still have that flashback of you always telling me that I wasn't good enough. And that hurts. It hurts because it's the truth. Because that means that it hurts deep inside, because
Sure.
it's like, and it's like, and he says, like the other day, I did it. And he looked at me, he goes, "You're doing it again." I didn't think I came across like that. He goes, "Yeah, but remember where I'm coming from." He said, "I'm coming from a fact that I've already got that thought. And I think I have to overcome it all the time."
Mm.
And you may not think it sounds that way, but to me, it sounds like you're screaming at me. And it's just his analogy of how he's saying it to me. And it's like, and I did, and it's like, but, and again, it's something that I don't do that's even, we can probably praise our family and praise our family to other people. But if you don't praise your family to your family, they will never hear it.
That's big.
And with that, he's not hearing it. I mean, he's had other people come to him and say, "Dad thinks the world of you. And your dad this and your dad that." I don't believe for someone that has that background of being told by their father that they weren't good enough. And it's not like I didn't say you weren't good enough. I said, "You're not doing that right."
Yeah.
Instead of instilling more into their creativity, I was pulling away from it. So they need to hear it twice as much now from the person that told them once. I relive a lot of movies, old movies and stuff, and I said, but there's a line in a movie that the bad things are easier to believe.
Mm-hmm.
You can do 100 good things. You do one bad thing, they're going to remember the one bad thing, and it's a hard lesson. It's hard for us because we're always going to look at it and go like, but they don't approve of me.
That's a tough dynamic, dude. I carried for years, decades. Took me years to get over this. My old man, when I brought home some bad report cards, he just looked at me one day and he's looking at the report card in utter disgust. And he's like, "Well, I guess you're just going to have to be a garbage man then."
Oh, no.
And do you know, until my late 20s, that was probably when I was 12.
Wow.
Until I might even have been 30, because about that age, somewhere in there, I lived in an apartment on his street. And finally, him and I had a little bit of reconciliation, and there was broken marriage and all in my family, And I think you're saying it, and it's resonating with me with Mason, because now my son, for those of the listeners, my son is now out on the crew learning, and he's running the team right now as we're recording this podcast. And I think what happens is, and maybe this will resonate with you, Rick, is like, I'm so proud of him. Like, he did a tree the other day where he stretched himself, and I had him in this tree, and he's going through, and I'm coaching him. And that was a good rapport, good banter. But I think there's times when something's going, I move to correction, like, "Hey, well, this," and what he hears is what you're saying.
Yep.
And I have to in those calm moments at home, or like after the day is done, just put my hand on his shoulder and just go, "Hey, I'm proud of you. You did a great job today." I've had to remind myself, like, because I'm in that work grind. What'd you get done? Did the lady pay? Were they happy? Was there any damage? Anything broken? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, this and that ripped off. Well, what the heck? How did that happen? Well, I was, geez. And now so are we fixing it, or are we calling Buster, the mechanic? Well, I gotta, and I'm not disgusted, but dealing with 30 some years of frustrations of things breaking.
Yep.
And maybe what he's hearing is like, "This is your fault." Even though I'm not really saying it.
The energy.
Yeah.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, man, you got, and I think, maybe some women will disagree. I don't know. Don't really care per se, but the dad thing, there's a strong presence about that in a house or with a child, that male presence and the approval of the dad carries a lot of weight. Well, and I think sometimes I know all the damage I've had because of stuff that's for a whole nother titled podcast, you know.
There you go. Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying. I think there's
Yeah, my mother would put my dad in a bad light. I mean, there were 6 children, you know, and we were acting up. All my mother would say is, "Wait till your father gets home." What does it make your father look like?
he's the heavy.
That's it. It's like, you know, and he would, and I mean, I don't have a problem telling you, there's a whole lot of kids in this world that need the belt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm sorry, I'm not telling you to beat your child till they're an inch of their life or not.
Of course.
But you know what? There was a lot to be said for like, wait till your father gets home.
We survived.
Yeah, we just don't want.
Exactly,
my father was not a bad guy.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
Yeah.
No,
But-
of course, man.
But you know, we used to have a lot of those parties I was telling you about with a lot of kids and all. And if you were playing in the swimming pool and it was keep away, and it was the fathers against the children, they had no problem putting their hand on top of your head and pushing you down 3 feet and holding you down there the whole time while they got the ball going like this, and you're down there. And they had no problem, but it was all good, clean fun. But it was that thing about
It's the masculine energy that is needed, and to your point, there's discipline, and it needs to be strict enough that there's a, I don't know if this sounds right, but there's a reverence to the masculine letting you know that there is an order that should be followed as far as respect, integrity, and character.
I like the fact that you said reverence as opposed to fear.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
Yeah, I would. You don't want them to fear your family. You don't want to fear your father, but you're supposed to have the reverence.
Yes.
You know, and now there's a lot of stuff that isn't right now that isn't that way. You know, it's like as I said about the young children. There's five young kids that I'll work with. They've been raised right. They've been raised right, and they know what it's all about. You know, I did mention Ethan. Ethan he's a kid that wants to learn. That kid is hungry for all that stuff, and we had to go back and forth about this maple tree that Ryan put us on, and it was just like it wasn't a good position, but it was one of those things where now I'm stretched out, not too far, but far enough that we're like, can we cut it here or can we cut it here? Now, granted, it was only 10 inches of wood, but 10 inches over 36 inches in diameter, it adds some weight to it. So it's like, I'd really like you to cut it here. But so it's like talking back and forth and learning from him and you can learn from anyone. That's 100%. The other thing that I want to point out to a lot of people that are listening. You can learn from anyone. Don't ever discount the fact that you can, no, he's 65. I can't learn anything from him. Yeah. Or he's 22.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And I can't learn. There's always one thing you can pick out. One thing during the day that you can pick out. And Sean Rowley, someone else we've mentioned, his grandfather always said, be a sponge. Take everything in. If you don't use it, you can always squeeze the sponge out.
That's right.
Some
stuff's going to remain in there, right?
Right. Yeah. But if you didn't take it in, you're the one that lost out by it. So he was, Sean was another same thing, learning from a lot of different people, around the around the campfire, or around the chipper, or whatever the case may be. Tree guys talking, which tree guys can do. Look at this podcast. You can talk for 3-4 hours.
So we talked a little bit about a lot of things, but I guess it's funny because people that know you as like crane operator, Rick, don't realize you had this whole career as a climber. Like that's what you did.
Right.
And you competed. We did talk about that a little bit. And at some point, how long has it been that you transitioned out of like the climbing? Because I remember you competing with Cody at the place where Joe Great works. And that was 6, 7, 8 years ago, or
no,
longer?
50, probably I was 57, 56.
Oh, okay.
10 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Because it's so, I don't think the last time I actually climbed was at the
crane school.
Yep. Last time I climbed at the, whatever that name of that place was.
Yeah.
We did that one crane pick.
Yeah.
And then I, gave Cody the saddle and didn't, have it put it on.
Oh, that's cool.
Do I really want to put it back on again? I'd love to.
Yeah.
But you're talking about the aging arborist, and I think this is it. Everybody asks why.
I was going to ask you, like, what?
Right.
Yeah. What transition? What clicked,
So, so I wasn't your Christmas. Please spit that one out. We'll start a new question on that one.
There we go.
Your question was, when did I transition out? I was getting in the way. At that point right now, I'm getting in the way. Can I get to the chipper and get material to the chipper? Yes. Can I get it in the chipper and get out of the way when I got some young bucks coming up behind me? No. Did I realize coming on the job that they had it better than I had it? And I say they had it. The job flow, the job setup, the job everything, they had it better than I could have it. And then at that point, it's like, do I come in and say, no,
Right.
I don't like the way you're doing this.
Right.
Let's do it my way. But I'm only on the crew once every month. Okay. So I would walk on the crew and I would ask them, what do you want me to do? And there's a whole lot of guys out there right now, I can tell you right now, that won't like my answer, but it's like, stop being so damn prideful. You know what? There are other people in the world that can do this work, and they can do it very well. And my son is not telling me what to do.
Sure.
My son is telling me where I can be most efficient for them to work. And if I'm not efficient anywhere, he has no problem telling me stay out of the way. There's a lot of guys out there wouldn't take that from anyone because they think that they're still pertinent in the world. And we all, as men, we want to be pertinent. We want to have, we want people to, to acknowledge the fact that we're doing a good job and we need that stroking once in a while. But it's to the point where it's like, pick up a rake. And I've had guys tell me, you actually let someone tell you on your own job to pick up a rake? I'm like, damn right I do. I'm trying to make money. I'm not trying to hold anybody back. I'm trying to make money. So yes, tell me what to do. Tell me where you want me to be, because at this point right now, you guys work so much better together than I work with you. And do I get called by my company to come hire my crane to work for my company? I do once in a great while. And at that point, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. And then they start asking me what I want. And when they ask what I want the truck here. I want the truck here. I want this, that. That's what I want. And then after that, I don't want for anything. So generally, yes, as the aging arborist has to be able to relinquish the fact that we're pertinent. We're just not as pertinent as we could be. And we need to, if it's a family business and we're working that family business, we need to find out what's most beneficial for the family and for the business.
That's awesome.
And that's what I see.
I mean, the first thing I hear there is tapping into an element of servant leadership. It's asking people, how can I help? What role can I play? And it's interesting, like I'm hearing you navigate because you're ahead of me, right? Like Cody's in his 30s, Mason's not, he'll be 20. And like we have a situation sometimes where when I'm out with them, immediately their hands off and they're looking to me for. And then one day, a couple of weeks ago, we got to the end of the job and I realized there was something missing on the ticket. And I'm like, well, didn't you guys read the ticket? And they're like, well, you're here. And I'm like, okay. So that was like a clue in for me. It's like, okay. So the other day I went out with them and I said to Mason, I'm like, you're running things today. I'm like, I'm here as a worker.
Right.
I'm like, you're going to be in the lift. I'm dragging brush. By the way, I got 19,000 steps in that day.
There you go. Sweet.
And that was a good workout. But at any rate, it's cool to hear you say that because I'm like, all right, this is a transition where now I'm trying to, because I can still be effective in the tree and I can still put a lot of material on the ground. I'll be 60 in a couple weeks. And I'm like, dealing with the physical issues, the Lyme, this and that, and how I feel at the end of a hard day. I'm navigating it, in real time. Right. And so, we'll see where it all goes, but I've had instances with, and you knew my old crew with Tom and Chris and those guys had a flow and Tom was very good at, and so most times when I did that, that's how I would show up. How can I serve today? You have the ticket.
Right.
Give me a line item that you want me to take care of for you while I'm here for a couple hours. I'm in and then I'm tapping out,
They still come and ask me one job here, one job there. They still ask me, how would you do this?
Yeah.
Okay. And you like that as a person.
Sure. Oh, of course.
You feel that and it's like, this is good.
Yeah.
But it's like, take that and relish that moment, and just, and say to yourself, hey, they still need me a little bit, but say to yourself, at least they still need me.
So a little secret, little inside baseball. Cody and I were talking. I don't remember where it was. I think it was on the phone. He called and we were just chit-chatting. And he's like, man, my father, like the stuff he knows. And so it's there, which is cool. It's cool to hear me. And, again, having that, being privy to that relationship or whatever. It's cool to hear. But I was like, man, this kid reveres his dad. He does.
So if we haven't, maybe this will put the last flog on the horse that we've killed. We've beat down here on relationships.
Yeah.
My kid has every phone call, every phone number that I have and talks to them more than I do to get information to run his business. So the relationship beat that horse down one more time. Oh yeah, like you just said. Oh yeah, Cody and I were talking. Brian Garrity. Oh yeah, Cody and I were talking. Oh yeah, Chris. Yeah, Cody and I were talking. Sean Albert, Dave Parker, Jason Pilla. Yep. These are guys that are in my area that I can't compete against.
Yep.
Yeah, we were talking. Yeah, Cody and I were talking. Shooting crap, figuring out what can we do here, what can we do there. What are your thoughts on how the industry is going? Stuff like that. It's just like, so the relationships, he's built that network, and he's really and he's playing the network. He's not trying. My kid can be very competitive, but he's not trying to play those relationships to hurt those people.
Sure.
Yeah, he's using that as a learning, as a teaching or whatever, learning thing for him.
Yep.
So that it's funny because you hear that, or you hear them say like, hey, yeah, Cody and I were talking the other day, and I'm thinking to myself, what? You didn't go through me? What do you think you are? You're supposed to go through me first,
Yeah.
And that's that prideful thing, but it's like, you know what? If that's what he's doing.
But what's good is, because earlier you mentioned when I asked about what for people getting into knuckle booms, what would you do? And you just said the thing. You said that you got to find somebody who's been well established in the industry.
Yep.
And for as long as possible, be annoying if you have to, but just continue to talk to that person.
That's right.
Or multiple people.
Right.
Because that's how you're able to have stability in the industry. And that's what he's doing. He's using all the contacts for that reason.
Correct.
And he's got you, but you're his dad.
Right.
I know my kids, and I say this all the time, like, you said it before, we can say the perfect thing, the perfect answer, but just because we're the parents, it's not good enough.
Yeah, absolutely right.
When they hear it from somebody else, it's like, oh yeah. And it's like, you know what? If you have to hear it from somebody else, I'm cool with that. Right. And that's where you're going back to the prideful. Don't be prideful.
Yep.
It's okay that it comes from somebody else.
Right,
so
right. Just say
cool.
Say to yourself, hey, maybe something that I did tell him got through because he's asking others to verify, if his thoughts are right or not. And that's, and you're right. If he doesn't bounce all his ideas off of you, don't take it personally.
Don't take it personally.
He's got it. He's got a thought process, going, and he's doing really well so far.
Yeah.
That's just, what I see for second generation, which probably could be another podcast.
That's
no, 100%. And one of the cool things I hear about it through this is because I'm similar situation.
Yep.
With Mason or whatever, my son, for those of you that don't know. When we go to like the work day or like the one day I think it was at Saluting Branches, and Mason was like, I'm going to take the Avant. I'm going to go see what like crew A wants. I'm like, go for it. Mm-hmm. Now, the way I look at it is, and then Pete sent him up on the crane.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, so this is happening, and sends me a picture. And I'm like, good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, I trust my network, my group.
Right.
If he's leaning into that network, that group, I'm good with it. Mm-hmm. And if it's independent of me, away from me, and if he's calling you, I think the other day he was asking me how you were doing because you had you got sick the other day and whatever, and he was like, I should reach out to him. Like, well, you should. Like, you should do it.
Mm-hmm.
And whether he did or not, is irrelevant. But like saying with you, it's like, oh, did he send you a message?
He did send me a text.
Yeah,
yes.
like the other day, right?
When I was down in D.C., I sent a picture back. But it was pretty much a nice picture from doing tree work from the bucket, saying it's a great day. I hope you're having a good day. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, I want that.
Yep.
And it's it's a cool thing. You you built relationships. You have 35, 38 years of whatever, and you have this network in place, and he feels safe to pick up the phone and call Brian or me or Jason, or it's a pretty cool spot to be in.
It is. There's and I'll tell you a very, very quick and funny story. Our hydraulic shop.
Yeah.
Okay. And Cody and I just had this same talk yesterday. Hydraulic shop. He went to the hydraulic shop to get hoses made, and he walks in with 3 hoses. And when he walks in the door, there's 3 people there with hoses in their hand. And when you walk in the door, off in the corner where they make the hoses on the bench, the owner is back there making hoses. One of the guys called out sick. So he kind of has to walk to the end of the bench so he can look out at the door that's over there. And hey, what's up? He goes, nothing. He goes, what do you need? Oh, I just got a couple of hoses. Cody says, got a couple of hoses. He walks from the bench all the way down, comes through, walks all the way to the door where Cody's standing, takes the hoses out of his hand, walks back to the bench, makes the hoses, brings them back and hands them to Cody. And Cody pays and he leaves. And Cody calls me. He says, Dad, he says, there's a problem. I said, what's the problem? He goes, I feel really embarrassed. I said, what do you feel embarrassed about? He said, Mr. Orchard, that's the guy's name, had 3 people standing in his thing waiting for hoses to be made. And I walked in the door and he walked over and took my hoses and made my hoses and walked back and gave them to me and left. And I left. I said, what are you embarrassed about? He said, well, those 3 men were standing there waiting to get hoses made. Okay. He goes, well, that's not right. I mean, I should have waited my turn. I said, well, number 1, he's the owner of the company. So he made that decision to take your hoses. Number 2, that's the respect he has for you because your mother pays the bills. She pays the bills every month. And he looks at that and he goes, that's one of my good customers.
Mm.
Yeah, but that's what you cultivated. I said, no. That's what the tree service cultivated. Now you're a recipient of that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you keep that and you keep building on that, you will always have that respect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't care if he's 55 and you're 30. You'll have that respect and all. And it says he's building those relationships. So the more that they see that, you know, the younger see that, you know, it's about relationships and it's about respect and stuff like that. The better they'll be in the world to be able to take care of themselves even more. And yeah, but that was just, it's just a funny story, but it's something that lives with us that we can always, you know, but now I says, now it's your turn. I said, now that's been done. Now you have to keep that going, you know? And that gentleman knew that because he has a horse farm. And there was a Sunday he called. He says, listen, I had a tree go through one of the fences at the horse farm. I said, I need to get it cleaned up. You know, can you get there like Monday or Tuesday? I can kind of put the fence up. I called Cody. It was like 1:00 on a Sunday. I said, what are you doing? He says, well, kind of before I had kids. I said, we're going to Mr. Orchard's. It was 10 miles away. We're going to Mr. Orchard's to clean the tree up. We got there and he's like, what are you doing here? Did you call me?
Yeah.
Okay. When I come to your thing, you ask me what I can do, you know, what you can do for me with hydraulics. He said, yeah. I said, well, that's why we're here. And I said, and I told Cody when we left, I said, those are the things that will, you need to think that way so that you can say to yourself, you build that respect, you know, and again, you mentioned to it, both of you alluded to it. It's the fact that you're a servant, you know, you're supposed to be, and I don't do a very great job of it. I don't think a lot of people do, but you know, servant to our fellow man, you know, we need to be a little more of that, you know, if we can say a little bit less about us and more about them, it could be a better world.
Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, man, that's awesome.
Move for our things.
Yeah. And it's funny. I mean, like, and you've mentioned it too about like, oh, you know, we're beating a dead horse here or whatever, but a big part of our talk coming up is like one of the topics is why are relationships important? And, you know, we can get a little bit sort of wound up in this almost like this lone wolf attitude. Like, I'm going to take over the world. You know, I have this tree to slay, tree killer, blah, 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 you know, and it's like from the very simple relationship of climber to groundy. What's that relationship like? How are you cultivating that? Are you working well together? Are you serving each other? You know, if if you're short on the ground, are you able to bring things down from the tree in a way that make it easier on your groundy?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you just looking to dump the biggest, nastiest piece because you just want out of the tree?
Mm-hmm.
We can serve each other that way, just simply on a crew, or we can be a passerby driving one of our trucks. This is a big thing I always say with our CPR and first aid cert. We're on the road so often. I've been first on an accident scene multiple times. Are we able to serve the community?
Yep.
But no, I think that's a vital. I always try to not be preachy on here, but when you're saying that, I'm thinking about like less of me, more of him, right? That's that Christian, that Christian kind of, Jesus thing. If I can represent that lifestyle of serving the fellow man, I like that. This world is so competitive, and I think the blessing of social media is that we can all keep in touch. I can see what you're doing throughout the week, and I like seeing it, and I like seeing what you're doing, and I like watching Cody, and I can keep up with my friends on there, but also there's the negative side of keeping up with somebody, right?
Well said.
And it's like, am I able to have the right mindset and the servant's heart and I think ministering that way in the world of thinking of your fellow man, fellow person, the world needs more of it, not less.
Right.
So anyhow, where are we at? Is there anything we need to?
I think we touched on a couple of things. I'm trying to come up with a creative question that is off topipic.
I was going to say, you always do a good job of asking.
Yeah.
Something.
So, let me see if I can come up with one. You said you have grandkids, which I know you do have grandkids. Yeah. They're both. Well, Cody just had his second one, right? It was going
one of them's 15 months, and I think the other one's 3 years.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
15 months and 3 or something like that.
Yeah. So basically, the question is, you talked about your experience with Cody. Now Cody's going to be leading the charge. Now you have your grandkids.
Yeah.
What would be something if when your grandkids watch the YouTube of this podcast or listen to it? What would be something that you would like to have them hear that would keep them charged and inspired towards anything? Like, this is a special message to them. Like, visualize them being 30 years old, and then this is a message you can leave for them.
That I would leave for them. Yeah. That I truly believe that their father's 10 times who I am. I think that's for the way he thinks, his critical thinking, his family values, his protection, and stuff like that. I mean, I love my family and all that stuff, but I think it with children wise, I think he's 10 times more, the person that I could have been, with my family. And I took a lot of it of what my father did. And my father was a great guy, don't get me wrong, but he would come home after a long day and he would sit in his chair and he'd watch TV, and that was it. Pretty much it. It wasn't that he was disconnected from his family, but he was a bit, but he had 6 children, loved every one of them, and we revere our father, and we lost him 3 years ago, which it's great, 90 some years old. He lived longer than we thought he would after my mom passed away, but it's one of those things. It's like, I don't have bad memories of my father, but could there have been more memories of my father? It could have been, but that same thing. It's the choices that we make. It's like, I made some not wonderful choices, so he didn't make such wonderful choices, and hopefully that Cody can make much better. I mean, Cody right now he makes a lot more choices with taking the kids and being with the kids and, all the other stuff. Yes. So that's what I think. If they took anything from it, that they understand that, that. And then the one little tiny dig was, if Sailor, that's his youngest, she's a girl, Sailor, Saylor. Yeah. Saylor. That, she takes away from the fact that her grandfather is still going to get them poppy piggies that are on her feet. We have this joke about poppy piggies, and she's like, she'll put them out there with her toes and all.
Okay.
I just mention her that way. You want to embarrass someone when they're like 14 years old. And
Exactly.
Did your grandfather just say something about Poppy babies?
Yeah, exactly. What is that? Yeah,
that's good.
Good.
Right.
No,
that's
good. No, I
good.
appreciate it because I'm trying to be creative in ways.
Oh, absolutely.
I think,
absolutely. Yeah.
So I think
No,
that'd be
that's.
cool.
I mean, we talked a lot about. I mean, it's Cody's. And Katie's. I mean, we haven't talked a lot about Katie, but Katie's right there with. Katie's a phenomenal person. She really is. She's a go-getter. She's a she's a pastry chef, and she makes specialty cakes, and they're phenomenal cakes. These cakes are phenomenal.
Yeah, my daughter is big into baking. I mean, every day.
Oh, there you
She's
go.
13 and good stuff. But so I can relate to you on that. Yeah.
Katie has her own pastry shop in our house.
Oh no. Okay. Yeah. Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, it is. It is in a way. I mean, you get to see the creativity and all, but it's like that thing about Dad, do you work? No, I don't. I haven't worked a day in my life. Katie even loves cakes because she loves it so much. She's now taken her hobby and heard it.
Oh, okay.
By making, and then she has no problem being critical of her father not charging enough money for his services. And then you go and see the cake that she makes, and she charges him $200 for a cake that took her like 14 hours to make. And it's like, I mean, she had 2 cakes that I'd say are great. She had one cake was a box of cigars. It was all cake.
Actually looks like
it was all cake. Yeah, chocolate cigars. Well, they look like cigars. The box looked like cigars. And she made a cake that looked exactly to the letter a Jack Daniels bottle. Just like ridiculous what she did.
Yeah.
But she does other stuff. She does cookies. She does all. Yeah. But she's just phenomenal. But same thing in her own right. I mean, Katie's a boat captain. Katie has a license that'll take her pretty big. I think she has I forget which goes where. There's a 100-ton and there's a 6-pack. That's the name of the license. And I'm not sure which one's bigger than the other one. But Katie's husband is the big one. She's the next one down. But she's a boat captain. She has all that mathematical about doing the weather and figuring out all that other stuff. She's phenomenal that way. She does, not to mention, she does the cakes. She does the teaching thing of it. She is part of a thing called Skills USA, which the children, she's a vocational school teacher.
Okay.
So Skills USA is if you're doing really great at your skill, you can go and compete against other vocational schools in the state of New Jersey. And if you do really well in the competition, you then can go to the regional. And if you do really well, you can go to a national competition. And she's had kids go to semi-national competitions because they were good at what they did. But she has those 3 things on top of doing all of my scheduling for the crane service. So now she has to leave the house at 6 to get to school by 7, to work till 3, to come home and do cakes and schedule all my work. It's just what she does. She doesn't have enough in her life.
2 of my favorite things about Katie.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I don't think I've met Katie yet.
Right.
And I haven't.
Well, you're lucky then.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say 2 of my favorite things. Like she's got a very heavy foot.
Yeah, she does.
Okay.
She made what is it? She made the Kessel run in 4 parsecs or whatever,
Right,
and they're like, wait, what? No, she did.
Okay.
She did.
And the other thing is just the banter between him and her is like, I won't say a comedy, but she's very spunky in the greatest way, and I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
I do. Look, man, I love your kids. They're awesome.
Cool.
I've had a privilege of watching them grow up,
I was driving home from somewhere and I called Katie because I was falling asleep. And for 3 hours, we talked about nothing. 3 hours. 3 hours we talked, like Paul said, it's just a banter. It's a stupid.
Back and forth.
We just but she's, but you're saying about that. She was in college in North Carolina. She worked at Starbucks until 11 o'clock at night. Next morning, I'm supposed to pick her brother up because we were divorced. I was supposed to pick Cody up for Christmas. And who comes running out of the house at 8 o'clock in the morning? Katie. She got done. It's a 10-hour drive.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay.
She got done from Charlotte, North Carolina. She drove from Charlotte, North Carolina at 11 o'clock at night and got to her mother's house.
Pick up Cody.
In 8 hours and 54 minutes, not 10 hours.
Oh,
8 hours and 54 minutes.
Got you.
So she's talking about driving? Yes.
That's
And-
Rick, what time do you think you'll get there? Well, Katie's driving, so I'm like, I'm like,
the
okay.
heavy foot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling that good. She drove,
And he's no turtle. Like, he's not going to do 60.
Yeah.
No,
No, I
you
know.
know.
Yeah.
but I'm not doing 90 like she is. I mean, we always joke that you can read the lighting on the taillights. When they were when the taillights were produced,
Yeah,
it's
with the little,
like
like,
engraved.
yeah.
You can read the taillights because Katie's so close. So sometimes she can get a little bit tough. But I couldn't. I had a broken foot. Katie, when I went to look at the crane that Paul now owns, I had to drive to Harrisburg. I couldn't do it. Katie drove to Harrisburg and back. Katie drove. The truck was in Pittsburgh for the first year when it had the grapple on it, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
Katie drove from here to Pittsburgh, polished the truck, got it into the show, got it all polished and all set up, and Katie drove home. Only because she wanted to be a part of it, and two, the fact that she wanted to help out if she could and just whatever. But just she does really well. She's just and I can't talk enough about it. And the same thing with the wife. I mean, I've not treated her well over the years, but she's a phenomenal person for what she's had to put up with in her life and stuff that's going on, man. She's phenomenal. It really is. So the business is doing well because Cody and Charles are kind of in there doing it, and Sean does all the estimates, then Cody and his mom take care of the business end of it. Almost better than I ever did it.
It's teamwork. I mean,
Yeah,
that's getting people. So Cynthia Mills talks about, like people on the bus. It's like, you got to get the right people on the bus, but then you got to get them in the right seat.
There you go. Nice.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great picture. It's one thing that, you get good talent. Yeah, you bring them in. It's like, okay, what are we good at? What do we like to do?
Right.
What makes us feel like we're contributing, but like maybe we're not working, like we're having that. Yeah. So,
Right.
Anyhow,
Absolutely.
are we feeling good?
I felt good.
All right. We
Yeah,
want to
awesome.
land it. We want to land this plane. Or
I think it landed by itself.
all right. Good. Awesome.
That's it, right?
Well, yeah.
By
So,
itself.
I mean, to me, I'll give my little rap spiel. I just appreciate my good friend, Rick Yoos, coming in, spending the morning with us. These conversations always start out there in the office.
Yep.
And we just carry them in. We sit down. This is how we talk to each other.
Yep.
I mean, whenever we talk, these are the way these conversations go. I just encourage everybody listening to, get yourself out there in the community and engage. And, there's a dichotomy that exists. It's like every other part of the world, right? There's good and bad people, and we just got to have the courage to step out, talk to people, engage, discern what friendships and relationships we want to build and invest time in, and do it.
Right.
And, it's like I say, you earn the right to ask, right? So like when we develop this relationships, I can call you and ask because of the history.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of what we're talking about. But anyway, I say all that to say thanks for coming. And, I guess I'll see you. I got you on the docket for something coming up.
Yeah, there's something somewhere.
At some point, right?
Yeah.
No, I would just say thank you for coming on and letting people hear your story. I think, I imagine listeners listening to it, the ones that don't know about us or New Jersey, like can just have this idea. I think the best way to put it is obviously get out of your fishbowl to build relationships is number one.
Yep.
Number two, have the relationships with people of all different ages.
Correct.
So the younger end, the middle, and the older end, and it goes both ways. Meaning it's not always the elders that help the young people. The young people can help the elders as well.
Absolutely.
Back and forth. And then more importantly, you start off with it doesn't have to be a 3-hour conversation every time. It could be on the job site between, like a climb and a ground person. Try to do better in how you talk to each other in the communication process. That can be a simple way to start, and then build from there with other people as well. So it doesn't always have to be this big elaborate thing.
It could be just the rubbing of an elbow.
Yeah, there you go.
It could just be that, and you build from there.
That's it. That's perfect. So again, thank you. I really do appreciate it. I like that we got to grow a roof steeper too. Definitely.
Well,
but yeah, and that's it, man.
I feel blessed that you're now a part of. I don't say now, you have always been, but that you're a part of this group whether it be New Jersey or whether it be the three of us or whether it be 20 of us. It's just, I mean, I feel blessed to know you because of the things that you have helped me with, you know, in many things, you know, just your talking and your research about limes has brought a lot to me and a lot to other people, you know, things like that. You're caring and all. I'm glad to have met you.
Appreciate it. Oh, I do. I appreciate it.
I mean, Paul, I met him for so long. It's part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Normal, right?
Abby something.
Abby, oh yeah.
Abby
He
Normal.
doesn't know that movie.
Abby Normal.
Abby Normal.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Yep.
There's a history for sure. But flannel pants excluded.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Listen, man. Thanks for tuning in.
Yep.
Comment anytime you want. Oh, so yeah, Instagram, SJ Tree Guy.
Yes.
People want to find you. You know how to get brick at Jagged Brick Climber. Paul Beester, Instagram. The Aging Arborist. Please get on there. Get on the page. Ben does an incredible job putting clips together, pulling out some little gems that guests and such come up with. So look us up, subscribe, share.
Share.
You know. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Peace out.
Thank you
We're
guys
out.
very much.